Hello. How's everybody doing on this lovely evening? Getting ready for oh woohoo. Yep, getting ready for probably our last big stream before the game drops. Exciting times. Very exciting times. And there we go. Let's do that. That way it's full screen and hopefully in theory the sound all works properly. We tested it a while ago. I know. It's the sound design for this game is amazing. And yeah. I can't I've said it before, I really think that this has been a labor of love as much as a commercial endeavor for Funcom to do it right, do it in a way that is memorable, that fits the lore, just the whole vibe. And it's exciting. I'm excited. I'm nervous. The first week is going to be a bit chaos. Thank you. That's the hope. That's the hope. Kind of chat along, and as we discover, I think the focus of this stream is supposed to be some late game things. It says mid to end game things. Iggy had hinted about maybe seeing a little bit more in the deep desert, but when asked, he kind of pushed back a little bit about it being PvP focused. So I think it's gonna be more. Oh. Okay, the question is some crazy Brazilians are talking about a rumor that Funcom has decided to have base raids in Dune like there is in Conan. Have I heard anything crazy talk? Okay, that is crazy talk because there will not be base raids like there are in Conan. And this was a whole big conversation in the Dune Discord a few days ago. And Iggy put some pins in, so if you're in the Discord, check the pins. But basically, base raiding is technically possible, but it is not a big focus for the game. There are daily storms throughout the Haga Basin, and if you played the beta weekend or watched the beta weekend, you got to see some of those. They happen in the deep desert as well, but they're bigger. And in lore, as Joel said in the meeting the other day, I'm going to spoil this for you, and we saw it in the movie. In the movie, Paul had to wait for the right moment, and it's okay. Thank you for letting me know. Paul had to wait for the right moment to go on the attack, to go after Shaddam, and he had to wait for a storm to come through, and the storm puts out an EM pulse. There's a lot of energy with the storm. Storm will knock the base shields down for a very tiny window. So you would have to be in the deep desert when the storm happens, and know where the base was to go raid it in that very tiny window before the shields come back up. So technically, it's possible to raid a base, but it's not really worth the effort. They want PvP to be player versus player, not player versus empty building. They want it to be more lucrative to go out and fight people in the sands than to go after their empty house. Because really, not many people are going to build in the PvP part of the deep desert. People will be building in the PvE part, and it's just basically a forward operating base. I don't see people doing a lot of actual fully functional base stuff in a space that wipes weekly. So the question is, it's something that if it happens, it only happens in the deep desert. Correct. It can only happen in the deep desert if you build in the PvP parts. You can build. There's a strip of PvE where most people will be building. So it's going to be, base raids will not be a thing like Rust. They're not going to be a thing like Conan. This isn't something where generally you have to be overly worried about losing your stuff by existing in the game. So it should be okay. If you build in the PvP part, well, made a choice. Yeah, you made a choice. Well, even you see in Haga Basin, and again, if you played over the weekend, or if you watched other people playing, when you go into a PvP zone, it flags. It's right across the top. You're entering PvP zone. There's the red bar. You can't accidentally end up in a PvP zone. So it's all something very they made you make a lot of deliberate choices in the game for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things you have to choose, and PvP is one of them. Hello. We're just sitting here waiting. I'm curious to exactly what they're going to talk about, and who if Joel's going to show up and cause mayhem again, because we all love Joel's mayhem. Okay, so that's not really a raid. If you have not put power into your generators for however long, it tells you how long, or you haven't paid your taxes and your power goes down, yeah, that's not really a raid. That's someone going through an empty abandoned house. That's just part of the decay process. So if you haven't been on, or no one has paid the power or paid your taxes, then there's that risk. It's also one of the reasons that they're pushing people towards social play. People are very worried, well, what if I'm off for 2 weeks? Well, guild up with someone or be friends with somebody who can pay your rent, or make sure you have your bills, and make sure things are on. Because otherwise, I mean, if you played over that weekend, things got crowded in some places for buildings, so you can't leave empty buildings sitting for months on end. That's there's a time where, okay, you're probably not coming back. Yeah, I wouldn't call it raiding. And okay, real life happens. I've gone times where I've been playing Conan, and my stuff would have been wiped. That would sting, but that's the way. I get why the decay thing is there. But one of the nice things about building in Dune is it's the sub 5 limits. In Conan, you can just build and build and build and build on an official server. So the build limits on Dune, I think, will work well. I mean, even if you get the advanced sub 5 and get the expenders, things that you can do to build the big bases, it's still a lot more compact than what you can do in Conan. And I say that as someone who builds big in Conan. I would never build that big on a server with other people, because I'm not a jerk. But yeah. Yeah, so essentially you could body vault yourself, or put your harder to replace things in the bank. And just make sure you park yourself. If you think you're going to be off for a bit, park yourself someplace reasonably safe. Yeah. Valuable things, or things that were hard to get, like blueprints from the deep desert and that sort of things. And your BBT is your most valuable tool. It's absolutely your most valuable tool.
Awaken.
Okay, my timer here says, yeah, I was gonna say it's...
The desert wants you dead. It's you dead.
There we are.
If the sands don't take you, storms will swallow you whole.
I love this trailer.
But you don't have to walk this path alone. In every danger, there is opportunity. The foundation of something greater.
Does that fix it?
A power waiting to be.
Oh, not the echo.
Desert power. Some claim to rule this planet.
Hold on one sec.
But
Does that
Arrakis
fix
is
it?
yours to explore. To fight for. To conquer.
Check something here.
But there are forces beyond even your control.
Okay, did that fix it? Can you guys still hear it? This was the problem we had before. This was some echo, so... Yay! Okay.
Master Arrakis. And it will
I absolutely
open
love
your
these trailers.
mind.
They show you so much.
This is your path to awakening.
Oh, they've kind of mooshed them all together a little bit. Love it. Love it, love it. Yay! Okay. Yeah, 2,500 people sitting in there. Not too shabby.
Hello everybody to our, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, last developer live stream before our head start and the full launch of Dune Awakening. I'm Natasha Rösli, I have the honor to be your host for today, and I think I'm not the only one when I say I'm so excited for you to experience what our teams have been working on.
Yeah, I was going to say,
for the past years.
she's got a delay.
So, some of you have gotten a taste of what the game feels and looks like during the beta weekend, but today we go beyond the beta and show you a glimpse of mid and end game of Dune Awakening. We have first a little
I do not
segment
have
where
the
we
page
talk
open
beta
twice.
and
I
combat.
have it
We then have
open,
live
Okay,
gameplay
I'm not
of
touching shit.
Haga and also
but I don't have it
Social
open
Ops.
twice.
We go into
I have
live gameplay
this in front of
the
me,
Deep Desert,
and I have the
and as
monitor
always,
next to
we
me,
have a
so
Q&A
that's
in
what's
the
it's
end,
piping
where
from.
we'll be connecting questions from you, from chat, live during the stream. But before we dive into all of
So
that,
it's my audio is
let's
fucked up.
watch
We
a brand new
fixed the
video.
audio, but I don't even have Twitch open on my computer.
Combat in Dune Awakening is the fusion of melee, shields,
Oh, we got new footage.
ranged, abilities, and vehicles. As you progress, your tactical options expand, allowing you to express yourself through different styles of play.
Does that help?
In the beginning, combat is a short, brutal affair. Do everything you can to knock your opponents off balance and open them up for a retaliating strike. Keep an eye on your stamina,
Okay.
or find yourself in trouble. Early abilities change the paradigm. Use the voice to force your enemies to come to you.
Okay, it's a weird feeling watching these because I'm like, I know where that is.
Knee charge into melee range. Ranged weapons like the Mauler pistol allow you to maintain distance and take down enemies from afar, until a shielded enemy enters the fray. Boltzmann shields change the nature of combat. Their kinetic barrier can
Smack.
only be pierced by slow-moving objects. Fast on defense, slow on attack. Swords, daggers, kinjals.
Watch Dead Woman getting slapped around is what you'll see.
But without a shield of your own, you will quickly be overwhelmed by enemy fire. But the shields also have a weakness beyond the slow blade. Ranged attacks cannot be fired from inside an active shield, creating a window of opportunity for the others to exploit. Specialized range weapons can counteract shields. The drill shot rifle fires drilling darts that will attach to a shield and slowly pass through.
Smack.
The disruptor fires statically charged.
They're just gonna
darts
stand
that
off
vary
against
in
each other.
speeds to overwhelm the
Phew.
power supply of the shield.
Disruptor.
Abilities can turn the tide of any battle. Swordmasters use their deflection ability to close the distance and bring their crippling
That was the
strikes to
Swordmaster
bear on their enemies.
dart deflect thing.
Troopers use their techniques to take to the air and bring death from above.
Hey, we know that, lab.
Bene Gesserit stop enemies in their tracks with the power of the voice, or use their Bindu dash to quickly close the gap. Mentats control the battlefield with their sentinel, or use the Hunter-Seeker for a silent takedown. Abilities, ranged weapons.
They are very
shields
cool.
and melee work in concert to allow mastery.
It is well worth
But beyond
playing around with
mastery
all of them to see
lies
what fits
the
your
spice.
playstyle best.
Consume it to awaken. Transcend human limits with new abilities and prescience, seeing what others cannot, the narrow path to victory.
Prescient.
Combine these techniques freely to experience
In a
sandbox
bowl full of
combat.
drugs.
Create unique strategies and bring them to bear against your foes. Always remember, Arrakis takes the weak.
Stabby, stabby. All the stabby stabbies are belong to us. Okay, now the test of the audio again,
And
right?
we are back and diving straight into our first segment.
There's a delay
showing
from
you
when she speaks to the
mid-game
audio.
in the Haga Basin towards endgame as well. But first, let's of course introduce our guests for today. Here on this side, we did let him out of the doghouse.
Hey,
we
it's
have Joel Bylos, aka Chris Knife, our creative director. Joel, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Hi everybody. My name is, I have to admit it, Joel Bylos this time. So, because this is the last live stream, I'm going to admit that my name is Joel.
Love it.
It's fine.
Yay!
And yep, looking forward to talking about everything we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Yes, and on this side we have Scott Jr., our executive producer on the game, new face.
Yeah. Finally.
He's got a
getting
haircut
out.
and everything.
Yes.
I know. I was just noticing
But yeah,
he's not
it's good to see
his mad scientist
And,
Joel
good to
today.
talk about Dune finally.
Very excited. So, Scott, let us do a little bit of a throwback to beta.
Sure.
Players, as mentioned, have
He's
had
got it nice and neat
I'd
today.
say not a small taste, but a taste of the game, the survival aspect of the game. Maybe we can have an infographic where we actually see what the players in the beta were able to experience. Here we have a little infographic. What
Beta
was
weekend.
the most valuable takeaway from this beta?
I think getting the game in so many people's hands so they can understand what we made. When we started working on Dune, we wanted to
Very
make more than
possible.
just a
My
normal
internet is
survival
not
game.
that great,
We
but
wanted
see, I
to
can
make
see
a
her
very
speak, and then there was like a half-second
almost.
delay.
And so that's not
So
obvious.
it could be my
what we were
internet.
doing, because we were taking a lot of risks trying to do some new takes on things to make.
But if I
them more
open up
Dune
Twitch
survival.
to check, it's just going to
So
echo
we have a lot
worse.
of people finally being able to play the game and understand, what we're trying to do. So that was great. And then seeing the feedback and the reactions and all the social media posts, all the
So-
YouTube videos, it's been fantastic seeing all the
Yeah.
feedback. My personal takeaways is that we had a couple technical issues that we were able to sort out and get fixed pretty quickly. Some issues with some crashes and freezes that we've already fixed. So I'm really excited to get the game out next week so everybody can see what we've changed.
It could be
Anything else to
Streamlabs.
add?
It could very well
No, I
be
mean, for me,
Streamlabs
it's just
because
a
I
lot
know
of fun to
that
watch
there's a
people finally
delay
playing.
from the
Like,
time
I-
I say
someone asked me
something
on
to the
Discord,
time
like,
you
a
hear
year
it.
ago,
So
like,
it might just be
tell us about the
compounded
game. They wanted me to
because
describe
of
the
the
game.
way
They
I'm
wanted a beta,
doing
and I was
the
like, well, it's-
capture.
It's very hard to describe because it's something unique. Yes, it has some familiar survival stuff, but we've layered it all underneath the Dune IP, and it's really hard to describe how.
No,
all
I'm
of those
trying to
things
keep the
come together
volume
to create
down.
Something that I feel is kind of unique and interesting, right? And so
On my
I
end,
think
so it
was
doesn't
fun for
echo so
people to really
much.
get
Is
their
that a
hands on
little
it. I mean,
better?
we've been talking with the closed beta players for a while, but seeing people in the world having it, streaming it, putting up YouTube videos, talking about what they were experiencing, I think. Importantly, people finding out whether they like or dislike the game as well, because I really like
Yes,
people to
I
be
know
able to
it's
make an
fucked
informed
up.
choice about what they're
I know
buying
it
as well.
is.
So, yeah.
100%. I think one thing I can add to this as well is like for me,
I
having a
know I
little
need
bird's
to
eye
straighten
view
it
of
out.
how the developers and the teams were reacting.
And the thing is we started to straighten it out, and then 12 people showed up, and I was very intimidated because I'm like, we're just testing.
From a normal gamer perspective, and then seeing all those amazing kind of, obviously there was feedback as well that we kind of needed to address and things. More on that in a second. Yeah. But it was just so fun to see how everyone kind of was like, no, we have something here, like people are enjoying it and they're getting it and they're like having fun playing the game, and that was really great to see from
and I appreciate it, but it was still
moments like people almost getting eaten by the sandworm, right? You know, those are very tense moments.
OBS is more bare bones.
There was one thing I really enjoyed. There was also like watching people coming in. I don't want to say skeptics, but they kind of.
But there's an expectation of you knowing a little bit more how to configure stuff. Like, okay, whereas OBS is a lot more, here's your kind of your thing and go with it. So, but I'm still very ignorant of how to do things like setting up gates.
Oh, cool! I got and suddenly.
And yeah, you'll have more control in OBS because you have to deliberately set things.
Approach the development with the sandbox, right? So, I don't know. As I saw people experiment, I was just like, "Oh God, they're seeing it and doing it. It's
they
great.
Get it. They have those light bulb moments.
Someday I will remember how to text
and they just were growing more positive as they played more, right? And that.
And there's that whole thing between Streamlabs and OBS
that are really great to see from
as well.
An outside perspective as well.
And it was good. Just
go get your lemonade.
Right, it's just the first 20 hours, so it's just a taste of the game, right? It's just the very beginning of Act 1. We have so much more to show, and the best parts are here to come.
It says assemble and drive the bike.
The stream as well.
By the end of the open non-NDA beta, there was so many buggies rolling around.
There were, of course, some things that weren't that great.
We found them early on.
One of those moments was, of course, the PvP moment in the broadcast, and when it comes to melee combat specifically. But we have actually worked on this and addressed it. Scott, maybe you can give a bit of context.
Yeah, I need to get my stuff sorted.
Beta for
definitely
a year and a half almost now, right? The new combat came in August of last year.
Yep.
And we've been making tweaks based on feedback and playtests that we've been doing.
Yeah, like I said, OBS
going into the beta, we knew that there was that issue.
Offers the potential for more
if it ran out.
Control,
working on it for over
but you have to know how to control it. Is the problem?
We patched out a change to it. Do you want to go over the details
Which I don't.
of that?
I mean, the high level changes it's something like this now, right? So heavy and slow blade have been separated as
back when Moses walked the earth. I used to work in tech, and now
slow blade finishes them off.
I was telling Bean the other day, ich bin ein Kartoffel.
You actually now holding the button, you'll actually do a heavy attack.
Just a potato. I can barely remember what I did yesterday.
And then in addition, if you're in a place where you're getting into the stun lock situation, you get an ability which is called Second Wind. It just pops on. It starts to restore your stamina bar quickly so you can dodge out of any sort of stun lock in that situation. So yeah, we've been doing balance around stamina costing on everything. We've been doing balance around the way attacks work. I think it's working pretty well. Scott and I did a fair bit of PvP.
It's a lot more plug and play friendly, if that makes sense. If you're just wanting to jump in and start something, it won't be as polished as what some people who know what they're doing are doing. Some people will have some really amazing setups.
Technique, the Mentat technique, which allowed me to avoid his voice power.
And
then he wasn't able to get me anymore.
I'm getting there. I finally have my commands. I have a few more commands finally set.
So it was a lot of fun.
Pretty good about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still, we put it on the closed beta. We're getting feedback from people and testing. But one thing is important to stress, right? It's a live game, and we're going to continue to patch and update. So we'll be paying a lot of attention to what happens.
I'm not sure what's going on because essentially I have,
and we're here to make the game better.
On my second monitor, I have a
Thank you. But
browser window open where I'm watching the stream, and that's what is linked to
some gameplay. So
Streamlabs. But on that window, I'm watching mouths move and no sound come out. There's that delay.
I'm like, that word is just not as much.
I thought you were going to, when you said dry
I love the riff.
Maybe I should. Maybe I would go better. But yes, so we have some group gameplay, mid game actually.
Yeah, mid-ish game.
We can probably just comment on it as well, what we're seeing and how it's different from what people have seen.
Oh no, face forward. Stop facing backwards.
Sure, you won't.
I can't
do
it.
I can go. So if you played to the Vermilius Gap, the
I
journey
can
is still
try.
very isolated
1
to
second.
yourself, right, and your sand bike, and you have a small base. As you're moving into the next areas, like the Hugget, or this is the Rift, right? You unlock the buggy, and the great thing about the buggy is it allows you to start mining from your vehicle, and The resource requirement as you go further and further into the game is more intense. But
And those are
buggy and
incredibly
other systems
valuable
like that
pink
allow
crystals.
you to increase your harvest rate also.
Yep.
And this is a fantastic part, right? Just
Yeah.
moving around, going to the different resources, either switching yourself to the turret, or if you have a friend, having the friend man the mining laser, right? And then being
I
able to
don't have
harvest
any other
resources.
browser
Yeah,
window
the
open
buggy's a
but that
multi-seat
one.
vehicle, right? So when you get to the mid game, it's good to start crafting that, right? And then you can get out there and you can harvest. It has a huge inventory space as well, compared to like the sand bike or what the players can carry. Our philosophy of design with the game, like I've seen people talking, asking for more inventory space on their character, but our philosophy of design for the game was that you build vehicles and they become your inventory space. You can see how big this is and how much volume it can hold. So the buggy really is like your mining vehicle of choice as you get into the mid game.
I
If you're playing with
have
friends. Someone's on the turret, someone's
it
in the driver's seat,
muted
you can
on
have a
my
friend in the
side.
passenger
I'm
seat
listening
as
to
well.
it through
You
the
You can bring
speakers,
multiple people.
which
But you
is
can
the
also just,
desktop
like,
audio.
Do this alone, jump between seats. In the interaction menu, you just select I want to drive now, I want to sit in the turret. I want to talk a little bit about this location, place called the Haga Rift.
I'm having a.
And
This
as you
is
can see,
weird.
it's this dark, gloomy. It's basically a geological ditch.
I don't know where the
And
audio
Herbert
is
talked
coming
about this in the
from.
book. He talked
That
about
is
the
a good
Fork of
question
Pan
because
in
if I'm
Graven.
this is
And there's
muted
Graven
on
and
my
these
end.
Big ditches, these big chasms.
If I
that you have
mute the desktop audio to you, you shouldn't hear anything but me speaking.
in this
If I turn it
ongoing
back
war of
on.
attrition between the Atreides and the Harkonnen over this shipwreck, which is central to this area.
Okay, can you hear
And
it
then
now?
as you come up out of the Haga Rift, you come back into these other areas of the map, and it's like it's a different style and tone to the desert. And I know people have been concerned, or at least been worried that like everything's one biome, but as you go down into the Rift,
How's
you
that?
feel it's a very different place. And shout out to our world director Jeff. Like one of his big key points about the world
Okay.
was making sure that we had a lot of verticality. And I think Haga Rift is like an absolutely perfect example of how you can just keep going down and down through these galleries, and there's bases built up through the entire side. It's just this really fun place to be.
It's like, make it deeper, make it deeper.
Exactly.
I remember he mentioned that.
And this is where all the lights come into play. So headlights on vehicles, personal lights on players come in. At this point, this is where you start bringing things, and yeah, it's fun.
And it's so huge because then you
Rub it in.
Too.
Um,
It's like wide and yeah. It's
I don't think so. I've got Streamlabs open.
The music and the setting and the atmosphere when you're down. In the harsh desert.
I have
and
a
like the bright lights on you the entire time, going like from shadow to shadow.
source to that window.
When you get down there, like the music team's done a very good job.
But after that, I don't know what I'm missing up.
It feels almost cool.
Is that it?
When you're down there?
That's our base.
I
in the
know
distance,
not.
too, I think, yeah.
Is it still
So you
echoing?
can see the wreckage of like the wall. You can see that's a deserter base. Like because of the war of attrition that's been happening here, some of the Atreides and Harkonnen have deserted, and they set
Okay,
up little camps around here. and
hands
they
off.
create, like,
I'm not going to touch it.
They're obviously hazardous. But now we're coming to a base that we created for this.
That's the thing is,
And
is
this
I
is
don't
the,
know where
Atreides base building set.
Yeah.
And
it
this
would be
kind of,
coming
I
from
think,
because
is a woo.
yeah, this is the
This
only
a great
browser
example
window
of
I
what
have
we can
open.
do
The browser's
outside of the
otherwise
square box
completely
that everybody was
closed.
seeing in beta because they only had access to the first couple of sets.
Yeah,
Ah,
what's
woo.
important as you get into the mid game, you start building up your infrastructure, and that's just as important as your equipment or your vehicles. So even if you lose a vehicle, right, like you make your buggy and you get unlucky enough to get eaten by a sandworm, like the infrastructure will allow you to get back on your feet way quicker than that first.
Can we?
way given.
Can we?
It is a little brutalist, but I mean, there's definitely a
Really
concrete
pro
feel
tip
to
something.
it.
So, can someone go and use a chest?
Yes.
But those
Oh, you wanna-
rounded
you
windows
wanna
are
mention
awesome.
My favorite thing.
So,
of-
so if you go to the wait, is that a chest? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Go to. So if you're in a chest in the game and you have a vehicle anywhere on your land claim, you can go to the top of the inventory on the left there where it says backpack. Where it says backpack on the left-hand side, whoever's driving. Up there.
up
Yep.
there,
And
yeah.
click the
Yes.
drop down, and you can select.
I'm not sure.
the
I'm
vehicle
afraid to
storage.
touch my mic
This is a
because
massive
if
quality
I
of
move
life
it,
for
then
getting
I'm
things
too
in and
loud.
out of your vehicles.
And I can only move
Because
so
we
far
see that-
away
we know
and
it's a
still
little
see
bit
the
hidden.
text
It's
on my
not
screen.
The easiest thing to find, but once you know about this, it ups your quality of life in the game immensely because you can just.
I have the
drive
Steam
in
page
with a
up. No,
buggy
Steam is
full of
completely
stuff,
closed.
Go into your base, click any chest, click on the storage drop down, and start taking things out of the back of that that vehicle.
It's something that the beta tester suggested, isn't it? Like directly?
Yes.
Joel is, this is a labor of love for Joel, and I think
Exactly.
there's the nerd in him is really excited about finally being able to talk about more of the game.
But we have that too, is you don't have to empty your chest before you can move them.
Oh, exactly.
This
Yeah.
is like, that's
Yes.
just a complete mind-blowing quality of life change to me. That's like so nice.
Yeah. So the game.
But no,
works in
Steam
these
is completely
phases
closed for
of,
me.
Like, in the beginning, you need a sandbike to get off walking around, right? Then you move to the phase where you want a buggy
assault.
to help you to
It's
harvest
a
and gather
medium.
resources. And then you move to the phase where you want to start building your first ornithopter. And so we have an example of this here. And the vehicle building in the game is very cooperative, right? You can see that these different, we're now adding permissions to allow people to help us to work on this ornithopter. So this, these guys are all in a group. And so people can cooperatively build. And of course, I think this is the medium, the assault ornithopter, as we call it, so it's the medium tier. But the largest ornithopter, the transport ornithopter, also requires, a lot.
There's been a few times people have come
So
into
it's
the
kind of part of the way we designed this was to make sure that we had this collaborative building system in the game, both for buildings and for vehicles.
This is my favorite. part of the
open
game, just
Discord
the
and have
building
tried to
the
pick
vehicles
fights,
actually
lore
physically
fights.
in the world, right?
And I'm like,
Putting
I'm
the
sure
pieces there, working with
that,
different,
if
make all the parts
Joel
of
were
them
here,
and
he would
then
have
mixing and
some
matching the different modules that make the
conversation to be
vehicle,
had.
fit the role that you want to use the vehicle with for that moment.
Yeah, and vehicles come with different module sets, right? So
No wording modules, game dead. Yeah.
Like we talked about the buggy. You can
So
actually
glad
have
we
a
don't have
rocket
that.
turret on top of the buggy, which I think you
Exactly.
saw in the combat trailer earlier.
I don't know how my
You saw the
stream could
buggy
be
flying
ahead.
rockets. So you can have different types of
'Cause I'm
things on the
streaming
different
their
vehicles, and
stream.
we'll continue to expand that post-launch as well, making the vehicles more and more useful with utility. It's fun, right? And then I guess the other side of this
Joel
is that we
knows
can-
the books in and
We
out.
can start talking about variants
And,
switches, which is our
It's actually
customization
going to
system.
change in a
This is
second.
how you do
You'll
the
actually
swatches.
see that. There we go.
Yeah.
So this
Atreides ornithopter.
these guys are aligned with the Atreides.
Boo.
The Atreides.
Here we just switched out the Atreides. And a variant, just to put the distinction in place, a swatch allows you to change the color sets, but a variant allows you to change the physical visual.
The
So
actual
this is
model,
this is the shape of the Atreides. It's got the hawk-like lines. It's got the sharp angles.
Boo.
And the Harkonnen have more of an insectile kind of feel to them.
Yeah.
And so this is and you earn these.
Yeah,
variants in this
I think they're
by leveling
flexing
up
on us
in the
now.
factions, which is a part of the mid game, which we aren't really showing a ton of that today. But as you join a faction, go through their quest lines, you earn access to these kind of variants and things like that.
But the
and then
variants
you're
and
able to
swatches
use
will
the
make
traits, colours and swatches,
people have been worried about
variants, yeah. Both
PvP.
on vehicles
Well,
and
make sure all your
right.
team looks the
vehicles,
same.
armors.
You
Yep.
can represent with your Harkonnen clothes, running in the deep desert,
Yes.
perhaps.
And that's it's important to note that like a lot of our philosophy around this was as well, like you create, so let's say you create a tier 4, like a mid-tier armor set, and it's like a scout armor. You can
I know that
variant
location.
swap that to look like any other scout armor in the game. You can't turn it into a heavy armor or a combat armor because we want people to understand in PvP what they're fighting. But you can change it into any other visual of a scout armor, and it's the same with social clothing. It's the same with obviously combat armor, and it's the same with still suits,
Yeah.
which I mentioned, which are kind of our 4 major armor types in the game.
And as you mentioned,
There's a lot of good-looking
social-
base spots right
social
there.
medium, social
Some
scout,
really
combat, and
really good
still
spots.
suits. Yeah.
Yeah. And what they're showing right now is the Vulture mode and
Yes.
the ornithopters. So
Sorry.
ornithopters are great, right? Because you have your helicopter mode where you can move in all directions. You can switch to the Vulture mode, and then it's more of like a glider where you're going up and down to gain speed.
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
basically a airplane mode and a helicopter mode, so to speak.
Yeah,
right?
Sort of.
it's like a hover mode and a glide
Yeah.
mode, right?
Yeah.
And the vulture mode allows you to be more maneuverable.
But yeah, it does have
you
a
see
wide
that they have
butt.
a boost module.
Very wide
this
butt.
is fun. Like when you get to too high an altitude, you start increasing your fuel consumption, which prevents people from going too high in the game. Also good to know for people who want to stay, close to the ground. Yeah, and now we're flying through an area of the map known as the Shield Wall, which is on the para-northern side of the Haggard Basin. We can talk about the para-directions at some point, because that's always awkward and weird. But because para-north is really south in relative terms to the map. But this is like...
See, there he is
rocky
flexing
areas,
that
so the
nerd
sandworm
lore.
is less of a threat up here, but the enemies are much harder, and the resources you gather up here are much more value, right, to what you're doing. So these are areas where you harvest.
And the first time you're coming here, you don't actually have an ornithopter. More than likely,
Yes.
you don't, right? So
Yes.
then you're having to make the choice of like Do you bring your buggy here, which is really high, really hard to get to, or do you go with your sand bike and try to climb up the wall? So it's ultimately it's about choice, how you go to each of the biomes, and then which vehicles you bring, right, which enable different mechanics.
Into the Odom.
Yeah, and like this area we're in now is known as the Udom as well, and the Udom has a
Udom.
little more plant growth
Very scenic.
and a little more greenery, and that's because
It'd be a
the
lovely
Udom
place
is
for
an
a
area where
retreat.
they're
Oh,
doing
look, there's
experiments
peoples.
on some of the land, and we won't talk too much about it, but yeah, we're gonna fly over. I guess this is our second base on the shield wall. Yeah, so this is the
Lots of
guild
shields.
base. So this is further into the game. People have progressed a bit. They're probably so we divide the game into 4 phases: survive, protect, expand, and control. So this would be here. You're either on the expand or the control part of the game. The sort of last 2 phases, right?
Look at that, built
so you've got
it.
a bigger guild. You're working with a larger group of people potentially. You can still play the game solo at this point. Everything just takes a little longer and is a little harder to do on your own, right? And you can still do it. You can craft these ornithopters. There's no problem. But we encourage people to play together and work together in a multiplayer game.
And we're showing off some building sets we've never shown before.
Yes.
These will be the Twitch drops.
These are Twitch drops. Yeah.
Exactly. So the one this is actually that one's Chome building set, but those round windows and the ceiling pieces, pretty much everything that's more metal than white stone, those are actually going to be Twitch drops that you will get. So they kind of
Twitch drops
on the existing Chome tier set, which I love them. I think they're very cool. Yeah. They're really cool looking.
Yeah, and you can see what we'd expect a guild base to look like, right? Lots of production. Going
I
on.
believe so.
It was something that we were really pushy on in the game development, making sure that the fabricators actually show the items being crafted as they craft, so you see them form up inside the fabrication units. And yes, I know this isn't exactly something from Dune lore. This is one of the places where I was like, I have to make a concession to the game. They don't have fabricators, they're not mentioned in the lore, but it's fine because it's cool. Rule of cool in some cases.
Absolutely.
And this is a vehicle fabricator, yeah.
There's also circuits. Have we ever talked about circuits before?
Nope, not actively. You can please feel free.
They're pretty neat. It's not like
it's a lot cleaner looking than the workstations from Conan. They're a bit more compact. But notice how tall the walls are. I mean, the whole thing feels sleek.
You'll never have
it feels smooth
automation like you would get in a factory builder game.
Oh, now they're just flexing.
It does enable you as you get to mid game to start having a fair bit of automation in the game when you're playing, because water and electricity become quite a burden if you don't start upgrading your gear and the infrastructure like we were talking about.
It's got a lot going on.
Passive ways to get water, which is a huge help, because water in the mid.
That could be fun to give it a little something unique feeling.
Aspects, not just survival, but also crafting.
For my fellow lore nerds out there, we call the passive water generation wind traps.
I was just about to say there
we need labels for boxes. That's what we need.
We've seen some while we walked by them as well. And yeah, it's just like you also see here how much bigger those
definitely need.
Are. We also saw a spice refinery as well, actually.
Yeah, there was spice refineries. We just saw a room with some decorations in it as well.
Yeah. That's I have to wonder, do those count as lights, and do they count against your
it was quite funny
count on your sub 5?
Here's a fun anecdote from development. The artist made a bunch of the artist made a bunch of pot plants. For people to put in their bases.
Because that's a lot of lights.
So we have a lot of holograms now.
Yeah.
I was like, we can
great,
have. Then I keep saying the word holograms. Sorry, everyone. Solido projections. Solido projections of plants.
Be yelling at you.
Oh my god.
It's a very lumpy door.
I'd be so mad if I wasn't me right now.
If you like decorations, you need to explore quite a bit.
Yes.
Right? We don't unlock them all.
Yes.
Go to trade posts. Go to places where there are people. You can unlock tons of the stuff that you're seeing around in the base here.
Exactly.
You have to work a little bit for it.
You have to work a little bit for it.
Yeah, that's all stuff you can buy in game with Solari.
Yeah. And obviously
the bed, the wall dividers, the little tables.
You can put shielded doors out, so you don't have to have doors.
Yeah, let's put a door with a hatch right there.
That's really.
I'd be falling down that.
You have flying vehicles. You want to land in hangars. You don't have to wait for a door to open.
Some of the cool stuff I've seen in beta is they will make a huge base, but it's kind of covering a road.
Now they're just flexing.
Open up the middle of it and then set the permissions on the Pinto shields so that you can actually drive through it. So you can't.
It's a bad place for that, isn't it? It's a terrible place. They need to go outside and check on the water.
Good guy players.
Good guy players. Yeah.
So I think we're actually gonna go up to the roof now and build a transport ornithopter.
Oh, nice.
Great.
Which
No.
not
No.
yet. Okay, not yet.
No, we're not.
Excuse me.
We're not. We're
We're gonna
Excuse
run around
me.
the base a little
Not
bit.
They
yet.
designed it
We're
to
still
look
working
good,
on
not
it.
to
Okay.
But
necessarily be
what we'd like to do is
functional.
Because we're actually going to go to a social hub later on, and we'd like to throw that to. Unfortunately, we
They
can't
just
do
had a
all
vertical,
the
a horizontal hatch with
we love you over there too. It's just our
shield
bonus
door on it,
difficult.
the
So we'd like to do a poll and throw
what those
that
are
to
called.
Twitch chat only.
But it had the
for
pentashield on it.
Which of the social
Don't
hubs
recall
you'd like
seeing
to
those.
see? We have 2 available in the game right now.
The VBT, your most powerful tool.
One is Arcane, the other one is Harco, and you can.
That's a, I mean, that's a lot of climbing around to go do stuff. Oh
So
look,
we give you
the
like
swarm.
2 minutes to vote on that, while our rock stars and wizards behind the scenes are preparing that poll for you, if it's not running already. And yeah, we can talk a little bit.
One of the cool things that they were just showing there is the vehicle backup tool.
Yes.
I don't know if we've talked about that on stream too much, but once you build a sand bike, or
It shows off a lot of the
you can actually build a tool
pieces.
to hide it.
So if you're doing something to
What's
for
the
a
real
look,
reason, Joel?
Let's go with the Richie's perfected miniaturization
Sure.
technology.
it's going to be
Player is
different
able
than if you're looking
miniaturize
for
their
something
vehicle,
functional.
and it only works for vehicles that have nothing in their inventory.
Correct. Yeah.
And 2 types of vehicle: the sand bike and
Yes.
the light scout
Yep.
ornithopter.
Yeah.
Oh, we're flying past.
Highly recommend always using it. Right when
Yes.
you're going to a location,
Yes.
land, store your vehicle.
Yes.
Don't let it get destroyed by a sandstorm.
I learned
Exactly.
that the hard way myself too, so I will never do that mistake ever again.
I see. We've gone with spoiler
Ooh.
territory here, and we're flying over the giant power station of Misatariel.
I love
I
the
don't want
lore in
to
this game, the
talk too
power
much about
station.
it. We'll let people figure that out in the game.
It looks cool. From
It's my
afar,
favorite
so it's like-
location.
Me
It's-
too.
It's
Mine
really
too.
absolutely amazing.
Mine too.
And the
Mine
story.
too.
It might
So
be
please
either.
look forward
Remember,
to
they
this.
was
And then
just
we
a
have
big
someone
thing with the
doing
NVIDIA
a
drivers
vector
too,
roll, which is
so
very
that could be
nice.
causing some
You need a
weirdness.
scanner
What
as
we're
well
seeing
with this
visually.
one.
I'm not sure to do that. Oh,
Yeah, so like that's vehicles obviously get like players got hand scanners probably in the beta, but now you're up to the stage where you actually have a scanner and you're scanning entire like islands by pumping C. So the idea is that again, as you progress, everything just takes a step up in how quickly you can do things. We wanted the game to feel
There's a little spice
you
blow.
put in the effort to get this vehicle, we're going to give you the convenience of being able to scan an entire island very quickly, right?
Yeah,
This is a
well,
trade post.
every time someone puts out a
this
new
is
video
the
driver, it's a whole
Crossroads
new
trade
thing
post.
to adjust.
Look at the poll.
It's
super tight. I love that.
Which
Right
is
now,
fair.
Arcane is slightly winning. So let's go,
Harco Village
Harkonnen.
is cooler.
I agree. I agree though. Well, both
We're going to see some footage from Harko
both
no matter
are
what we do.
super
I-
cool. Both are super cool, but I do like.
I have no idea what my stream health looks like because I have Twitch closed.
Something about that whipping noise.
But funneling it through my kind of bleh
in like games where you have a choice and then I end
connection
up
would
good
make
anyway.
sense
Yeah,
that it
like
would
you
be
just
so
can't
great.
bring yourself to do
Feel
it.
bad for those
No,
characters,
I
right?
was
Yeah.
yeah.
So these
We're
are
gonna take the
pilots that we
pilot.
disabled in the beta. You may have met one at the first trade post if you were playing.
And we're
Can
going
you
to
fly
Arcane,
me
by the way.
somewhere?
We're going to Arcane?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
It's fine.
So
Ah,
we're going to go and visit Arakeen. All right, that's cool. The pilot only takes cash. So you can't have credit. You have to have cash. So we're heading to Arakeen.
She doesn't use it on sunscreen, that's for sure, because she was really sunburned. Like, so let's just get that out there. Yes. But yeah, you need to have the cash on you.
I
as well.
think
One of the features in the game.
as far
that
as, you know,
haven't
we need to
really
make sure we
spoken
keep
about too
our,
much. I mean,
our
we haven't been. We've
expectations
spoken, but I don't think people picked it up in the
checked
beta. Oh, here
as
we
far
go.
as what we
Hold that.
expect at
That's right,
launch.
'cause This is cool.
Here we are flying into Arakeen.
This is Arakeen, and as we arrive in Arakeen, so one of the features we have in the game is the CommuniNet system. And when a player opens their CommuniNet, they can choose radio stations to listen to in the game, a la like a Fallout game or a GTA game. And this guy, Finno Gary, he runs this trash shop, but he actually has a show on the Atreides radio. And if you listen to the show, it's his daughter talking about their adventures on how they got all this salvage. That
He's
shows
in
up.
a he's
It's
in
kinda
a
fun
scout.
to just like narratively listen. You know, we tried to connect everything in the world.
And when you
This is
land in
again-
Arakeen
I
or
wanna make this
Harco,
point because
it
I feel
auto
like I
parks
see it
for you.
sometimes
It's safe.
online
You
and
don't
it's a
have
little,
to put it in the BBT
let's
there.
say, disheartening. People, we
So you
we
could
were
show up
advertising the
in,
game
you know,
saying word
the big
MMO, and then people were like, "Oh, they
carry
took
all.
that off," and we took it off because we do feel like this is a huge world, completely worth exploring with lots of other people. But it's not an MMORPG, and people were getting confused by that.
Yeah.
So we took it down. But I think it's clear when you look at places like our social hubs, our exchange system, our banking system, that we have.
Yeah,
a
you
lot
can
of
only put the
elements
small
of those
ones
style
in.
of games here, right?
But remember, when you
So if we're
land,
looking at the exchange,
it auto parks for you. You don't have to use the BBT
players
in
can
the
post things
social
on the
hubs.
exchange, and this is the banker.
Would you like to dip
One of the great things here is you can actually store items and credits, right? So say you're going to take a long vacation, you're worried about your base getting destroyed for some reason, you can actually
And there's your
fly to
banker.
Arcane and dump a bunch of stuff in here.
You
I was
can
actually thinking
deposit
that
your
one of the great
stuff.
things here is his mustache.
Sure, yeah, that's also
Expecting it to
fantastic.
come in on the mustache.
I mean, we've all seen the
Fantastic mustache. You also pay taxes here.
Yes.
Like, because
Yeah.
you need to, like, for the bigger
Gotta keep your
sub
shields
fees, you
up.
actually need to make sure you have your taxes paid to the
Yep.
and this is where you pay. This is the
Emperor?
imperial consulate, as we call it.
Yeah.
This is where you go to pay.
Yeah, they
your,
parked
your
the
taxes
medium
to the Imperium.
at the base, and
So
then
the
he
first
popped out his
Sub-fifth
assault
console
one
that you
to
place on
take
a rack,
off
that's
with.
the basic one that you place in the starting area. You don't have any taxes to pay on that. But once you get a bit further into the game, you
Carino
start
with
building
the
bigger
lion.
bases, you pay taxes.
you again?
Once you start expanding that land claim, which you do through these land claim extenders, you start paying more tax. So the idea is that the larger guilds who have more members, who are more capable of, like, achieving.
I
things in the
don't
game,
think it'll
they
be a
have higher
house.
tax
I
rate
think it'll be
because they're
something like
building out larger
Chom
spaces. And
or
that's a way of
Smugglers,
making it fair for people
something
who
like
play
that.
solo
It'll
as
be
well,
something
so
that
they
tip
don't have as much
the
tax to
Lion's
pay.
Rod, but something that
The
can't
other
impact the
important
Lion's
thing
Rod
about the cities is
directly.
that's where you really
which a
progress
house
through
could.
the faction storylines, right? So here's where you're going to come and officially join the Atreides or join.
I
the
saw
Horde
there was
and,
there was one that was like
start
gold on
vying
the
for
outside. It was
lands
like it
around the
was
system and getting in, like, involved in the
excruciatingly
politics of the
expensive.
entire world.
I did
And
get
this
the
is where the
Atreides
advanced
book
trainers
though.
are as well.
Yeah.
For people who want to progress past the basic level of training in the.
That was my first Twitch payout.
Chosen classes.
Except for Derek.
Oh, Derek, the planetologist, he's everywhere.
He's just
Which
driving
makes
around.
sense. That
He's
would give him
everywhere.
double vote.
Wandering mentor. You can
he's,
find him anywhere.
But I don't
Yeah.
see Carino
He's
being
here.
able to
He's
tip
there.
it.
He's
He's
there.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, I saw that.
Dennis,
I'm
no,
like,
Derek,
I
okay,
want-
no, enough. Sorry.
The RPG books, but not that
No,
bad.
but you have contracts here, of course, as well, and
contracts,
specific
yeah.
vendors, so they have a lot of things to sell as well.
Yes, and the main story brings you to these locations as well.
Yes. So now we actually get a glimpse at the overland map.
Yes,
which
so
is
so you can use the pilots in the trade post to fly to the hubs like we showed, and you use those same pilots to get back. But once you have your own ornithopter, you can just fly to the edge of the Haga Basin map, and you'll get a prompt asking you if you'd like to go to the overland map. And this is the overland map, and this is
Yeah,
again, one of the things that I think kind of
I bought my Cyberpunk
breaks us away
books.
from your standard survival game. This is where we have
on
the ability to
Some of them I brought
infinitely
them on eBay, and some of them I
expand this
bought
game,
directly
where you
from
have
the
multiple maps that players
publisher
can go to.
because Amazon didn't have them.
I think
But you have to really watch because these are older books. They can get stupidly expensive, but the Morpheus RPG books are stupidly expensive. Like, what do you think we are, Warhammer players?
For a long time, and this is kind of
I
part of
know.
what again we wanted to do to make this a coherent universe, right, and make Dune feel like something that we're going to be working on and adding to for a long time.
So post-launch, there will be new locations that show up here.
I saw a thing where people were complaining about people who like tattoos and things like, you'll never get a job. Do you know how expensive this shit is?
Eventually, when we release,
This is not a cheap hobby.
they'll be accessible through the Overland. map.
Gaming is
One
expensive,
other thing that you can find,
whether it be console or PC or
overland map,
tabletop.
which also goes into the story that we really would like to talk a little bit more about because we have
Yeah, Drive-Thru RPG is often
it
a
takes
good
while to get the
resource.
story going, so people during the beta week
There's one of
haven't
the
actually seen
Right.
much of
combined
that.
Chromebooks
So,
for
via the overland map, you can also
Cyberpunk
access some of
2020
the
that I
story
keep wanting to
dungeons.
get.
And we actually do have some footage of
Exactly.
one of
There's,
those
you'll never get a job.
that
Well, you're not getting a
you
tattoo without them.
and Joel and Scott can probably give a little bit
Yeah.
of
I need more
context what we've
tattoos.
seen.
Part of Act 2.
So here we're not going to spoil too much of the story, but
Nope,
this
nope.
is kind of the
Yikes.
theme of Act 2, right? You've moved from
But it's a nice
survivor
sleeve.
doing the trials. Now you're getting involved in the politics.
The kitten is back.
Yeah, so there's a lot more interaction with NPCs, dialogue,
Seems that the
a lot more
Watchers have
cinematics.
some new blood.
And a lot of
I have two that I got for free, and I have regret. So there's
I love her. Everyone does.
in the cone of
there's
silence.
a little regret there.
Yeah, we didn't mention the cone of silence, but you're inside the cone of silence here, and the game actually dampens all the sound outside of it when you enter, which is pretty cool.
To be distributed in the water supply of this water shipper. The act of
Chore murky for law people who understand.
What is that, by the way? I actually don't know
The
what that
Assassin's
is.
Handbook describes certain poisons. Chore murky is poison in the drink.
That's actually something I didn't know. Like, I was wondering about that earlier. Like, I didn't know.
So you see, we have a dialogue
She
system in the
probably
game where
would
you can make
try to,
choices based on several
you
of the
know,
things that you've done in
if the
game as
price
well.
was right,
Your
to be fair.
background at the start has some payoff here.
this water shipper is wealthy.
Again, it's
To be
it's not
fair.
like, you know, we're not making an Obsidian RPG.
It's the
with all
pillows
the
and the
choices, something
smoke.
like that
She's
has,
probably
but
high
we're
as
doing
fuck too.
A level of this that's above and beyond what most survival games do.
And you will be interacting with some Dune
Yeah.
characters that people
Well, look
are
at her
familiar
last
with.
name.
Yeah,
Dune
yeah.
fans probably recognize already that last name.
Yep.
All right, so we're skipping ahead here. We've jumped to the part of the mission where you're heading towards the water shipper's mansion, which is in the Imperial Basin just outside of Arakeen. The player is being sent there to assassinate and poison this water shipper on behalf of the Lara Tuek. And so
That's close
we
enough.
come to this new level
You can see our
on the
turret
overland map.
keeps himself well guarded. Those lights
Yeah,
are
so
valuable.
your job is
If
to
they spot you,
infiltrate,
you'll be
right?
Yes.
tempted.
Yeah, she's talking and explaining the mission.
Yep.
But I can't hear it, so I'm just.
I'm telling you,
One of the things you want to do is make sure all the abilities still
Joel
work.
knows the
So
lore.
It is still very sandboxy.
Yeah.
There will always be multiple approaches. You
Yeah.
know, if you have a Shigawire Claw, you can use that to grappling hook over some areas. If not, you know, then you're gonna have to be a little bit more stealthy and avoid the searchlights.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where our philosophy is like we give people all these tools, but it's a sandbox. Play the way you want to play. Like here, it's, you know, we have to find a guy called Yargan, who's her contact,
He's supposed to be waiting for you by one of the storage sheds.
and so like it's like we're quite.
Look at that dew
nice to
field.
People, you might get spotted, but you can escape the lights quickly.
That's the one we
I'm
found
not,
here.
you can read the dialogue here. It's fun. One of those ones.
And again, depending on your background, you actually get different choices to.
I know. Well, he is a water farmer, but I mean that is a lot of water. It's a lot of water just sitting there.
This he's a grumpy guy.
I agreed to help Alara with this. It was because her old man got me out of a few scrapes back in the day. But if you get caught, we ain't met.
Especially when he talks about the place.
Got it?
You'll appreciate this option.
Good. Then ask your questions.
It's like, so which background?
Guarded like a princess's virtue.
Which background do you have to get that option now?
That one's for everyone for free.
It's for everyone. That's for free. Okay.
Guarded like a
Okay.
princess's
I'll
virtue.
have it in video too.
Listen, smartass.
But there's so many little Easter eggs and fun things.
You ready to listen,
Also,
smartass?
like, especially also for like,
I love Joel's writing style.
Yeah,
descriptions,
weapon
things.
descriptions, item
It's super
descriptions.
fun. Like everything's connected. Like for those of you who do like lore and who know Dune lore as well, you will find a lot of connections. But also for the ones who don't,
It's been a while.
Yeah.
it's super fun to just.
Okay, we need
He's
that
also
furniture.
explaining the different ways that you can approach this quest right now. So he's sort of explaining to
We
you,
need
there's
it.
like two paths that you can take. Like you don't have to go this way, you don't have to go that way. Here's how you can get in, there's how you can get in, right? So as a player, you can approach this, again, in kind of that sandbox approach. It's like,
Get out of
again, I
here.
don't want to oversell it. It's not an immersive sim where you have
Yeah.
like the Dishonored level of,
Yeah.
but you can definitely find alternate paths into the
Oh,
mansion
you've been spotted.
to achieve your mission. And I think that like a shout out to the story content team with Bernard and the boys, as I call them. They've done a great job with these, setting them up. And here's what Scott was talking about, where you know, oh, like I've set the game up in this way. I'm a Benny Gesserit. I'm just going to stun this guy, and then I'll be able to walk past him, and he won't even notice me. He won't call up. He won't call the guards because he doesn't see me, right? And so you can use your abilities, your skills that you picked up in the game to just pass through these areas, and yeah, it's kind of fun, right? And
Sneak,
we
sneak,
just
sneak.
wanted to show that we have more than just, you know, the basic survival game. There's way more going on here.
Yeah. Especially like I think it takes about if you let's let's assume you ignore everything else, because there's a lot of choices for you how you want to approach Dune Awakening and what there's
I
to do.
know.
But let's assume you're only going for the main story and like those cinematics and things. So it takes you, I did talk to Niels about it as well. It takes about 30 hours until the story really
I like
gets
that you
going.
can. I mean, if you feel like going full
Playing by
frontal assault,
yourself,
you can
just
do that.
Experiencing all the survival elements and going.
Watch
at
your
it alone,
step. Do you
that's
see it?
30 hours
It's
to get through
quicksand.
part 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's deliberately like. I'm not defensive about Act 1, but the first part of the game is deliberately somewhat light, just to give people that like, learn the world, acclimatize.
And you
yourself.
say it like it's a bad thing.
follow
I've never
up on
played
the friendly,
Assassin's
have the
Creed.
friendly
I've only
trials,
heard
and it's
good
super
things
interesting,
about it
and then we
as
start
far as the
introducing
story. I
layering
know
in
there's been some
politics
clunky
and
mechanic
universe
bits
and
as
more of this
a,
stuff
as
and
a
more of your
thing,
personal
but
story, like what's going on, why are you the one being asked to do this, what's happening, right?
And ultimately,
I want
it is
survival
trees
in my
So
house.
the player needs to learn how to survive in Arrakis, right? A very harsh environment.
Carefully. You'd have to climb the walls
mechanics to figure out,
and shimmy the walls to
make
get
your-
past it if you didn't
make
have
your,
something
way through there
to
and figure out how to get
bounce you up
outside
and
of the
down.
basin right before you can experience, more of
Look at the
the
furniture
politics
and the
intrigue that are
walls
going on.
and the
I really
plants.
love that we have. I mean, the beginning of the game is kind of story driven, right? You get context to what, where you, well, a little bit of context what's actually happening. You have a person that talks to you and helps you at the beginning, and then, as you mentioned, it goes more into learning the actual mechanics and the tutorialization of the game, and we give you time to get a bit acquainted with everything, or not everything, but a lot of the things, like the basic mechanics, and then we approach you again with the story a bit later on, and I really love that too.
I love this guy, but we're cutting now.
Makes
because
sense.
We're not going to spoil
Put
too much of
pull it
what's
out, put it in.
Exactly. So obviously we don't want to show too much. There's more to this dungeon. What we're going to do now, though, is we're actually going to watch another video that's going to lead us into our next segment. So enjoy.
Cool. Intense.
Ooh, another trailer.
Power. Given
The Landsrod.
power, you can move a planet. In Dune Awakening, your path to power leads you through the great houses. But only accomplished guilds may earn their place among the Atreides or Harkonnen. Swear your allegiance and contribute to their rise
She
in
looks a bit
desert
cranky.
power.
Doesn't she, though?
The pledge is only the beginning.
The game is rated M. I mean, there's drugs and bloodletting, and there's other
of the Landsrad.
things that I won't spoil for
The
you.
Landsrad is the council of great houses that make decisions that impact all the players on
Yeah.
all the servers in your world. Your goal, and that of your guild, is to secure their votes so that your faction, the Harkonnen or Atreides, can take control. To secure their votes and sway them to your side, you must complete specific house requirements on the Landsrad board. Alone or together with your guild, your efforts can move the needle. Be the first to fulfill a house requirement to not only secure their vote, but also reap their many rewards. Whether you enjoy PvE or PvP, there are many paths to victory. If you prefer the relative safety of the shield wall, there are many activities that will not put you into direct conflict with other players, while still contributing to your faction's rise to power. House Torvald wants you to eliminate sandflies. Rush in, or pick off the deserters.
To be
one
fair,
by
everyone
one
wants you
with
to
your
eliminate
sniper rifle.
sandflies. I want you to eliminate sandflies.
House
Please,
Rashis wants
eliminate the
a delivery of
sandflies.
ground cars. Join up with friends and build strongholds for large-scale production, and deliver them safely to the House representative by ground or air. Large-scale production is costly and will require a lot of resources. To be able to craft certain high-tier items, you will also need the most sought-after resource of all: spice.
Doing drugs in random
Buy
caves.
spice from spice merchants,
or on the player-run exchange. And it can even be found in smaller pockets behind the shield wall.
Oh, that's the worst way to go out there and get spice. My lord.
You must venture into the unknown.
Like hell. It's like,
The deep desert.
not that it looked bad, is it to have to go out there and scoop it up by hand. That would be hellish.
Resetting the map every week, revealing new resources to mine and points of interests to explore. This ever-changing environment offers endless exploration, but also endless conflict. Each house in the Landsrad desires a specific control point in the deep desert. Seize it and hold it over time to gain their vote. Fortify it and be ready for a fight. Other players will soon come to take it from you. The deep desert is also home to frequent spice blows, offering large quantities of the precious melange. You need a lot of spice. Once you've located a spice blow, move your harvesters in place to collect. Just be ready to defend it with your life.
I know, I was just thinking, some of this is old. Some of this is old footage.
After a week of politics, manufacturing, and conflict, one side emerges victoriously. The Harkonnen have
They got
seized
5
the
in a row.
Landsrad, and the leaders
Bingo!
of the player guilds who contributed to their victory all get to vote for a decree that will impact everyone on a server belonging to that world. They choose to unlock exclusive
It does,
weapon
it
import
does.
rights.
And this
By
is
decree of the Landsrad Council, under the seal of His Imperial
this is
Majesty,
one of the reasons too that it's
Trade
not just
Consortium
faction
has
against
been
faction. It's
authorized
also
to visit Arrakis,
guild versus
providing
guild, because
Harkonnen
what
players
my
with
guild
exclusive
wants
access
this
to a
week
unique
might
weapons
be
vendor.
the weapons, but another
The
Atreides
Harko
guild
Village.
might want vehicles. So I have to, there's the back and forth over. Not only did we win the board, but then we have to vote which reward as a group do we want. So even if you win the board, you don't always get what you want. Denial of the vote is also
back. No technical problems. It's all fine.
a valid
But I would've
strategy.
noticed if you didn't say anything, Scott.
Sorry. That's my job.
Pretty sure I couldn't hear it, but I'm pretty sure it cut off mid.
Iggy kick a cable again.
Yes, I can hear it.
We've seen his cable management.
The video is going to be available after the stream anyway, so you can watch it in all its glory. Landsrad. Talking about Landsrad, so let's go to the next segment.
I didn't touch it.
Landsrad. So
It's
we know people have, of course, expectations of what the end game.
I do take a little comfort though
especially
when
deep desert
professionals,
looks
for lack of a
and
better
what
term,
it's for
I
and
know
how people
this
use
part
the
is
deep
not
desert and how
Icky's
it
job.
works.
That's
A lot of those
but,
things. But I think before we go
he
into
does
more
it.
details
But
and,
when
show
people
some
who get
videos
paid to
and
do
gameplay
it
as well,
have problems, I feel a
Joel,
little
I think it'd
better.
be cool to talk about the vision for what the end
Just a
game
little
is
bit.
supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like going back to when I joined the project.
They are going to make
this
so
was
much
5
money on
years ago,
DLC.
right? And we were talking about what
Just
is
the
a
building sets
survival
and
game,
the
because Dune,
placeables.
making a Dune survival game, and we were talking about what is the vision for an end game in Dune, and the kind of the goal and the idea, at least in the
Yeah.
beginning, was like we started with, hey, like you start by surviving in the desert, and it's that raw nature versus, you know, mankind kind of thing. It's the sun, it's the sandworms, it's the storms. But
I'm admiring their
into this
Funko
mode of
symbols
survival,
stuff on the
which
wall.
is political survival, which is the end game of the game. Needs to be
Furniture
about these
sets,
big
I believe,
forces,
will come.
right? The
I really
Imperium
do.
is made up of the
I mean, we've got the 4 DLC
the Landsraad,
planned.
the
If you
Emperor,
bought the package,
and
it's
the
got
Spacing
the
Guild,
season pass. It's 4
showing all of
DLC.
these things have an influence.
There'll
and
be
you as a player
more
are just a small cog in the
expansions will be
machine,
free.
but we want you to be able to feel like you're participating in this.
But
big
yeah,
umbrella
furniture and build
system.
sets.
And so we started there, and then we talked about
Definitely.
like, there's an element of, like, I think very technical game design here, where we talk about player activity cycles through the week. I was looking at like games like Rust. You know, Rust has their server resets, which is great for like people to start building up, and people really enjoy that cycle. But a lot of people also love having their stuff and not losing it. And so we talked about like, okay, what about a place? And in Dune, it's perfect, right? You have these Coriolis storms, and there's scenes in the book where the sand is just tearing apart cliff faces and ripping down the things in the desert and revealing things from beneath the sand. And so we said, okay, what if we had a map, the deep desert, and in the deep desert, the landscape changes every week? How does that affect gameplay? And then we started there.
Exactly. I think part of it for him is just the joy being able to flex his nerddom, and everybody going.
And again, this
that's awesome.
This is a high level design.
We might actually have an infographic or a visual asset for that. A week cycle of.
Oh, do we?
Yep.
Cool. Fun. You guys are on top of things. I know nothing. Oh
No, not that
no!
one.
Sorry, that's
Not this one.
not that one. But okay. Either way, I can
Maybe
just
it's
keep,
not right. Maybe we didn't.
I can just keep talking.
Yeah.
Just keep talking. Sorry, everyone. I know it's just boring.
He's like, I can just keep talking.
But like we wanted to approach this right. So we were like, okay, what if there's a map that resets and the map changes every week, so that it's an infinitely explorable space? And we worked backwards from there, and we said, how do we build a lot of our game systems towards this? So we started with the idea of, yes, the map resets. When would we want to reset the map? Let's say we reset it on the lowest
slide
player
buttons.
activity
I
day of the
didn't
week,
touch it.
right? Which tends to be a Tuesday night or a Wednesday.
Wasn't me.
In these
Can't
kind of
prove
online
anything.
games. And then we're like, okay, and then there's this activity we call scouting and cartography. And then we built a game mechanic around cartography and scouting, which I think we're going to show in a little bit. And that is, and maybe you saw it, we definitely tutorialized it in the beta. You revealed parts of the map.
I like
And
the
then we
mechanic.
made
I
so
think
you
it
can
fits. I
save
think
those
it's
maps
quite
and sell them to other players.
ingenious.
So we create a loop there for players who
And
are scouts, and that happens.
from my side, it's very an obvious way to keep things fresh.
During the low ebb,
And
as it gets revealed, everybody needs information. How do we make information a commodity?
you know, it drives engagement with the map.
Then once that information is gathered, people share it with their friends and their guilds. Then they start setting up what we call a logistics plan. How am I going to control the spaces in the deep desert that I want to control? What is my guild looking for? Are we looking for spice? Are we looking for unique schematics? Are we going after shipwrecks? Are we going after the ecology labs that have been revealed? Like, what are we doing this week? So then they go set up. And then the weekend, which is when the highest player activity count is, that's when people are online. And that's where people really participate in the activities in the deep desert, whether that is running ecology labs with their friends or shipwrecks.
It drives people
fighting over,
to play.
Like, control points in the deep desert. And then after the weekend, I should say, on top of this as an umbrella is the Landsraad. And the Landsraad are asking you to do activities that take place both in the deep desert, but also outside of the deep desert. Exactly. There's a lot of PvE stuff in there. And then at the end of that activity cycle, everybody votes. It sets a server-wide change, like a worldwide, I think we should say in our term.
Worldwide.
It changes every rule set in the world can be changed by the Landsraad. And then the Coriolis storm happens again on a Tuesday, and we start over again with a new weekly cycle. And this is kind of the vision and dream for how the end game should play out and how we would like it to work. And yeah, I mean, we'll talk about how that we've set everything up for this to be the case, but of course, no plan survives first contact with players. So another point I would like to make is just we're a live game. We'll continue to tweak and update these things. So, but let's maybe look at and talk about it.
It's a live game. It's going to change.
Let's look at some gameplay, actually, some activities that you might be wanting to do. So we have like actually a team here that will now go into the desert.
Okay, so
we're in the deep desert.
The overland map.
Yeah,
we're in the shield wall, which is the southern part of the deep desert.
It's the PvE area.
Correct. Yeah.
This
So
is the PvE
it was,
space.
It was important for us so that people that are scared of PvP or reluctant to get engaged with it, right, that they had a place in the deep desert that they could go to without, instantly getting killed as soon as you're coming through, like in warping in, right, gate camping or whatever from other games. And this is also where you set up your base of operations.
Yes.
The very
If they have a
first
base started.
area, because the deep desert is gigantic. There's no.
Yeah, as a
water
rule,
around
don't leave
this,
your stuff
and you need to have the
outside.
logistics
Definitely
set up
have
and,
either the
like,
VBT or get the
go there by
garage up very
yourself.
quickly.
Like, I fly there on beta. I try to stay away from people because, as we said, we're
This
not
is
great
where
at
the
PvP necessarily.
base
Right,
blueprint
you can
will
go
come in
rat.
handy,
Oh,
I think, the
absolutely.
most.
Absolutely.
But just to point out one thing here, because these guys are using. So again, coming back to like how do we get towards this vision? We started with how do you build?
Yeah.
This is going to get wiped every week. How do we encourage people to build bases? Well, first of all, we created this blueprinting system. You bring the diagram of your base, you place it out, and you build it quickly, right? This is very fast. It doesn't take very long when you're with a few friends. You get a base put down, you build it up quickly. This is part of the logistics cycle of the deep desert.
And you can either bring the resources from Haga Basin and all the vehicles that you're bringing with you, or you can harvest there's quite a bit of resources in the shield wall. You
Yep.
know, so you can
And you
set
just
this
fill
up.
it in. You just have to have the materials
this
on
is
you.
what's happening here. We're building a forwarding base.
Exactly. I was going to say that this is obviously a forwarding base because it is kind of very boxy again compared to like the actual home bases that we saw earlier. Because this is all about
So
efficiency, right?
come in,
It's like
drop the
fitting
sub 5,
your,
drop a couple
the
foundations
storages and
with your
or the
boxes
things
and
that
just
you
start
need,
to start to build.
Now my brain just stopped working.
Fabricators.
Fabricators, thank you.
Yeah, and we made a change, or not a change. It's just the building costs are different in the deep desert, so it costs half as much.
Building
you
is
get 100%
faster,
when you're breaking things down. Just because we know you're going to be redoing this every week.
Yep.
there's going to
Efficient can
some
be
loss,
good.
Right?
With
So
Box
we're
Base
trying
Club.
to make it easy and accessible in the ways that we can.
I
while
like
still
boxes for
keeping the
production.
thread there.
Yes.
And the intensity, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's it, right? Like the deep desert is a little bit about
This
that
is
tension
this
as
is a lot
well,
of wasted
feeling of,
space
like-
unless
we're
they've
building
got
here, it's the PvE area. I expect people
unless
to
they're planning on
build
parking
their primary like weekly base in the
transport
PvE
there in the
area and
middle.
then maybe set out some logistics bases so that they can do things like refining spice, and that's where it becomes an interesting kind of like we'll see how people play out these scenarios in the actual deep desert in the game, but this is kind of the expected behavior. This is what we hope people will do. And we've tried to build all the mechanics into place so that people can do this.
Yeah, but 2 or 3
Right,
people,
and
that's
that's been
built
a large
good
part of it.
bases coming up really
You also
fast.
see co-building here. There's actually several people working on
Yeah,
this.
everyone's working together, right?
Yeah,
And
which
that's
is super nice
that's
too.
the guild focus as well. Like you know, it
Exactly.
is a multiplayer game. It's really important to make sure that people can play together and
Yep,
do things
power's
together. And I think the fun part in this game and this style of game is that it extends beyond like the traditional MMO experience of like we can fight things together, right? And we can role play together, but you know, you're not building things together, you're not crafting vehicles together, right? We have those options, which is nice.
Exactly.
And it's just cool to see how quick you can use the blueprint system to get like a gigantic base, right?
Yep.
Even though it's utilitarian, right? But yeah, it does what it needs, and it's quite impressive.
Yep.
I know that people are also wondering that you won't be able to, copy that your setup inside. So this is literally the blueprint is for the building itself. So everything inside.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You still have to put the placeables in.
So we're behind the shield wall. I think we've just left the base now,
Yeah, we're actually
and we're
just showing a little bit of the PvE area here.
so this
Probably
is
the
behind the
hardest
shield
part
wall, and
is
then you come
water
into
out
the
there.
deep desert. And this is
There's
like,
dew fields, but
oh yeah, sorry. Behind the shield wall, there's also PvE elements here. This is the PvE space.
Yeah.
So there are things like shipwrecks that you can raid. There are like eco labs behind here. So there is a section of the deep desert. I know people are really worried about doing PvP. There is a whole section here. It's 24 kilometers long, where you can actually go and like do the PvE part. And we're about to see. Well, this will take a few seconds.
We're actually
survey,
We're in the middle of
just
the survey.
surveying the-
So now we're surveying the land in this section, and we'll see the segment reveal itself. And this is like one of the PvE segments of the deep desert. And what you'll see here is that we've surveyed 1 square, and just to give some context, that's one of 81 squares within this map. So there are 81 of these squares. It's huge.
Yeah.
There
We're
are
actually also seeing the sync chart that I mentioned earlier
Yes.
as well
Yes.
come into
So,
play.
so now I don't know whose name it is, but whichever player it is crafting a. They have surveyed.
Camille is
Now they're going
crafting
to
a
craft
survey,
a
yeah.
sync chart They have crafted a sync chart of the deep desert. It tells you in the information which sector of the deep desert, who created it, how long ago it was created, so you understand whether the information's out of date or in date. They're going to share that sync chart with their friends.
Yep.
And then their friends, hopefully, will be able to switch camera perspective and see their friend apply the sync chart, which saves them having to explore.
Yeah,
so this is that cartography loop.
You could go out with.
I remember playing Ark and doing
Look at
the.
this.
I need help over
That's the
here.
deep desert over there.
And
sure.
someone would always say, "I'm over here."
Go out with,
Where is
like
over
an
here?
exploration kit, right? That's really fast.
And there's like,
that's
I'm by the
go
rock.
around,
Well, that
you
does
know,
not narrow it down.
harvesting abilities, right? And then you scout the area, bring it back, and then your base can roll out with your transport ornithopters, your harvesters,
exactly,
sand crawlers.
Depending what your plan is for the day.
I'm always like, could you be more specific?
Exactly. I expect people to, in guilds, to be figuring things out and how they're going to work together.
Look at that, they've already got the base up.
There's roles here, right? Like again, we tried to really build this game with different roles for different people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the idea
in Conan or Ark, it's always I'm over here.
Going into fights.
Could you be a little more?
I bring back the information. Then people who like building bases
with the deep desert wiping and the wrecks moving that are out in the sand. I'm by the wreck. Which one?
For our crafting. Are there uniques that we're looking for? Are there specific uniques? I think one of the really important.
It's a pretty base.
About the deep desert is that like the unique schematics, the imperial permits, which maybe people saw, the purple ones.
But
they're on a limited loot setup. So you don't get the same ones every week, and the layouts of the deep desert change. Here we see the trading system. The sync chart's been traded.
For out there, I would want something a little bit more functional.
A certain amount of times.
Yeah, and now we're going to consume the sync chart, and then we're going to.
3 spice generators is a lot of power for a base that size. It is. They're just flexing now. That's just flexing their wealth to have those out there.
And sell them on the exchange to other players as well.
Yes, and while now they're actually building a transport ornithopter, we can actually quickly talk about
now they're going to build
in combination with the map, because we actually have a visual asset here that shows how they can look like.
Now they're building the
we
carrier.
Can talk about the rotation. So this is like, so let's see that we're going to see 3 weeks of Coriolis Storm changes to the map. So this is week 1. And then we move to, and you can see that there's like 1 eco lab, a shipwreck, and a cave there, right? And a small base, and some spice blows that have been marked.
It would be the
next
battle bus.
Week, the layout has changed. Where things are is different. There's a control point now in the bottom left. There's an eco lab in a different place, and a shipwreck that's been uncovered.
And there will be different loot and
different loot in all of them. And then we go 1 more week again, and now you can see that this is a bit larger. There's another control point. It's a different house control point now. Different spaces on the map. A couple of eco labs this time, 4 or 5 caves, and the shipwreck. So you can sort of see how this changes and how this loot encourages exploration for people each week.
And that's 1 tile.
That's 1 section.
One of
81st.
1 of 81.
Yeah.
But I will say this: it's a very big desert with a lot of space. So there's not all the tiles are that populated each week. So people aren't.
It is a very big desert.
15 eco labs in every square, right?
No.
Like it's a
more
big
sparse.
barren place. And this is also like important because if we want people to fight over things, we actually need to draw them to the same places to fight over specific things in PvP.
Yes. So for the ones who actually do want the PvP, they have a place to go where they know there's probably other players there as well.
I was going to say, he's forgetting something really important, and that's fuel.
This is the largest flying vehicle that you can craft in the game. And this may be my favorite game mechanic because the transport ornithopter can pick things up. And I love it because it can pick up almost anything that is a vehicle, right, in the game. So
one of the things you'll see in the mid game is like the buggy is really hard.
8 wings of fuel hog.
It mines so much more than you can ever possibly mine yourself. But it's a pain, right, to get up on the shield wall or to get it out here.
So a good tactic with the buggy though is to use it as storage and use the transport ornithopter to pick it up and carry it. Are we going to show an example of carrying? I guess we are.
Yes, we are, because what we're actually preparing for here is a spice harvesting mission.
So the team's going out to do some spice harvesting.
So we are actually gonna pick up a harvester.
So now we're coming out into what I call the real deep desert, right? This is actually
That's a
what
lot
you
of
think
sand.
of when you think of Arrakis from the movies, right? So we just got the nice tutorial pop up talking about the deep desert.
Yes.
So this is the
timing.
Arrakis that we know from the films. So Hagar Basin is like and it's taking a lot of the information that we have from the books and about like the different biomes and things and making it into a truly sort of interesting PvE experience. But this is the
Space
true
Blow.
deep desert of Arrakis. This is the place where people are scared to go. This is where the Fremen live. We're passing outside the shield wall now.
And it
This
warns you,
is
zone
where
change.
the War of
You're moving
Assassins
into the
and
PvP
is
area.
allowed to happen.
So you can't
And you can see
accidentally
a spice blow in the distance, which draws
you
people
can't
from
accidentally
miles around to go there, right?
end up out
And
there.
I do want to say this section here, if you turn the camera right and left, you can see that we have the shield wall. This is 24 kilometers long, and you can't see people all the way along. So people who are like nervous about going into the deep desert because they're worried about, you know,
There's lots of
PvP.
potential for
I
hidey
think
holes
there's like
and
an
small
element from my
compact
end,
builds on the PvE space. You can
designed
sneak in and
moments that
out
we've
if you're
talked
wanting
about
to go out into the
on this
desert.
project quite often is like you come to the edge of this vast ocean and you dip your toe in the water and you're a little bit scared of sharks, but you see something in the distance and you think, I can make it. I can get there and I can get back. And the first time it's scary. And you feel that tension, and the second time, and the third time, but you feel that tension, but you actually start doing it, right? And I get that people worry about toxic
I'm curious why he's
behaviors and
flying the
ganking and so
transport
forth,
out there
but
without
we
transporting
tried to build
anything.
a space where you can get away from people as well.
Correct, yeah. So I think that's really important to talk about is in Dune, you were given the tools to get away, right? Like
You're
if
taking a control
overwhelming
point.
amounts of people
We've
come after
lost a
you,
control point. I've
maybe
played that game.
You can't quite get away, but that's generally not going to happen. So a lot of it is more about
Hey, we're about to get
PvP
the
is
lunge
about
rod because
controlling
we're gonna have
points
5 in a row.
like having to give up that
Bingo.
if you don't feel like fighting.
Fighting over things
Fighting
instead of
over,
kicking down
yes,
sandcastles.
exactly.
So on the Landsrad here, this is kind of interesting, right? So you can see the Landsrad's in the state of like,
Yeah, what's he?
if we claim this
It'd
as
be
the
like
Atreides, we're
driving
going to
out in
win
your
what we call
giant
a
Suburban
Sisselrad,
and
a
not having
Sisselrad
anything
means
in
that
it.
We're going to get the voting power for the week. So a Sisselrad is when we can complete
You
a
know?
row.
Why
So normally,
do that?
if you were Harkonnen and Atreides in this situation, you'd both be fighting over this particular control point because you really don't want the other one to win for the week. But normally, like it's kind of you're always blocking each other and causing like the other team to have to, you know, go back and focus on filling out a row or trying to fill out as many squares as possible. So we're trying
There
to
is
take
that. Well, they're flexing the spice generators.
House Hagel owns this
It makes
control
sense to
point in
flex
deep
the
desert. We're in the deep
vehicle,
desert as
too.
Atreides taking over this control point on their behalf.
Like if you got
You
it,
can see
flaunt
it's
it.
just this
Oh, he's got
control
bumpers
point.
on
It's
him.
a place that you have to defend in
Could
the
be
deep desert. It'll
interesting.
draw other people, and it will earn you points over time. It's a classic control point in the deep desert. One other thing, just if you stop for a second here, one other thing I just wanted to point out, one of the feedbacks we had in beta was about team markers. You can see our new team marker system in the game here. It's deliberately only for the 4-person groups. I will not allow this to be in the game for guilds because I want, like, especially I know people talk about Zergs. I think when Zerg guilds and there's like, 40 people attacking each other on the screen, if
We won't
everybody
find-
can see
we-
who's in their
I
guild,
think-
it's very easy to target the
I
people
think
that you're
Zergs
trying
will
to
try.
Zerg.
I think Zergs
But
will
if-
get
if
bored
it's
and
just the group
as
then it's
a
much more
mass.
difficult for Zergs to
There'll be
actually
some that come
not
in
do
and
friendly
hang
fire.
around for a
And
little
there is
bit,
full
but
friendly fire
I think that
in
the
guilds.
play cycle
I mean,
will
they
not be
can do it
interesting
if they
to
work
big
for it,
groups
right?
like
They
that.
can make sure
Yeah,
everyone
right.
has the same swatches and the
Yeah,
same
sure.
armor.
That's-
So there is
But
ways to
somebody
do
could
it, but
figure out
they
It's
how
not
to
that kind of
dress
PvP.
like and
Yeah.
infiltrate,
Quickly
Exactly.
switch to
Yeah,
your-
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
We didn't want to take
no
away.
artificial.
Yeah, like it's been one of my. Let's say I will say this is one of those things where I have had to fight with a lot of developers on this project about this. There's a crashed ship down there, by the way. It's kind of cool that you could also go loot that. But like it's like giving too much information for free to players actually limits our ability for people to have politics and intrigue.
Yeah.
Because if I can see your name over your head, I know who you are, right? But if I can't, if I don't know who that is, and you dress in my clothing and you walk into my base and you follow me around, it's like I might just think that you're my friend from the guild, when in fact you're just like, trying to infiltrate. And we want to allow that possibility because that is Dune. At its core, that is how things work. There are plans within plans, there are groups within groups.
It is called the
I
War of
remember that
Assassins,
early
not
on
War of
where
Zergs.
Your
So
kind of law was information has to be
Oh
earned.
yeah, for sure.
That was a very early thing.
Can I just point out that we just
Very
crossed
cool.
a server border?
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
our game has server meshing tech in the deep desert. And
Yep.
it's been a very painful technical thing to get working.
Yes.
But we just crossed a server border. You probably might not have even noticed any sort
The
of
size of that
because
spice
it was
blow.
very seamless. And again, shout
Oh,
out to our technical
I know
team
where they
who
are.
working their butts off to get this in good shape. But we just crossed a server border from one server to another, and it's basically not visible, which is great.
Yeah, what we call like authority transfer.
Authority
when you move
transfer
it.
between servers, yeah. So now we're picking up a random sand.
Okay, so they had that sitting out
and
there.
bringing
We're
it
gonna
out
go
to the
pick up
spice
our
house.
harvester.
So, I mean, I love that. I love that mechanic. I think it's fantastic fun in the game, just picking things up.
The transport ornithopter.
It's like a
is
giant
fixing-
hand
Yeah,
back.
it's very slow.
So it is dangerous to go out just in the transport ornithopter.
And you can of course sit in the harvester
Yes.
while
So
being
it's-
transported,
it's-
which is really
it's,
fun too.
You can also-
Exactly,
I think the
exactly.
transport one has like 5 seats as well, so
Yes,
there's
yeah.
you can bring.
But
a
now
whole
you're
little
puttering
group of
along
you.
at a
Kidnap-
very
kidnap
slow
other
speed.
enemy
I mean,
harvesters
you're
as well, which is also super fun to do.
you are a
But we
giant
should talk
target
about
with that
spice,
vehicle.
because That's really.
It's a flex
ties
about
the
money,
entire
but it's
game
also a
together,
flex
right?
about how I can afford
All
to
the
replace
gear-
this fucker if you blow me out of the
tier 6
sky,
or the last
because
spice,
it's
everything is
expensive.
Everything requires spice to craft it. So your end-game gear, your end-game tools,
Yep.
end-game vehicles.
Everything end game requires spice for crafting, essentially. And also, we mentioned the Landsrad. The Landsrad has always the center square of the Landsrad requires spice to win. It's important. The Sandcrawler is like, it's not the full harvesters that you've seen in the films. Those are owned by the big houses. But as you can see here, this is like a little
What
raid event. We just placed a thumper
masochist
on the
is out
sand.
there
We
on
have
a
guy
bike?
He's riding around dropping thumpers.
You should also hear it actually on
Yeah.
stream now. You hear
Yeah.
the
I
The thumpers are
have not
really important
experienced
because
that
sandworms
particular
roam the deep desert. They will be
strategy for
coming, and you need to be
spice
placing out
harvesting.
thumpers to distract them away from
Yeah,
that sandcrawler while it's harvesting
as someone
spice.
who doesn't
You wanna
care,
keep on the
I've
spice as long as
I've
possible,
not
just
seen
like
that
in the book.
before.
You want to stay on the spice, earn as much profit as you possibly can. You can even see the
Because
trail
you're
the
riding a
sandcrawler's
bike out
leaving
on the
in
open
spice as
sand.
it
There's no
sucks
place
up
for you to
spice
duck
into its little
into.
vacuum pack.
Yeah, so the sandworm.
Oh, you can see the
stops
line
being
where the
a
harvester's
threat,
going in
but it becomes
circles.
less of a threat as you're going throughout Hogga Basin into the mid game. But then at the end game, right, there's sandworms all
Oh.
over the place, and it becomes a threat again, especially when you're trying to get spice from the sands.
So yeah, so you saw the sandworm
Because
just
you want
took
to
that
you want to
thumper.
keep
Hopefully
the
our
worm
intrepid thumper
distracted
places
from
will
your
put out more.
harvester.
They're totally well organized. They have like
Yep, there goes the
several
bike down the
people
hill.
placing out thumpers.
Yeah.
They have like the scouts here in the air that we see as well, which is really cool to see.
Looking for worms.
Plus our
And he's
transporter
you see him going
ready
after
for
the
any kind
thopter.
of
Yeah.
danger that
And-
might occur.
And so
Yeah.
as soon as the sandcrawler, like the person driving the sandcrawler knows that they're the
You can
target of
see the
sandworm, they need to radio in and be
aggro
like,
on
"Get me
the
off sand,"
vehicles.
so that the transport ornithopter will pick them up. But at the moment, I think we're using the thumpers effectively as a team, and this is a part of it, right? Like this is why the deep desert is very Dune. I don't think you have this experience in any other game. And the idea was to create this. So if you are here with your guild, there's
He's already
something
had
to
to
do and it's
refuel.
fun, it's interesting. But then other players might show up as well, and that's where it becomes another step, right?
So you're saying it's not just
He's
the
just
skin
doing
color
circles.
itself, is that what you're saying?
We could talk about what the word reskin means. We could talk about that some of the best
Oh.
games in the world are reskins of other games.
Yep.
So you see here though that there is a lot of sandworms that
Yeah,
are
yeah.
And he's
popping
getting a little
up
altitude
constantly,
there,
which
just
is
saying.
both fantasy but also terrifying.
There is
Yes.
a limit to how much they
Yes.
will eat thumpers, right?
Yes.
They
Yeah.
do eventually get annoyed.
Eventually
There's
they
like,
have enough.
I'm not that dumb,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
They'll eat thumpers for a while.
I see what you're doing here.
They have a
So-
diverse
So-
palate.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is like
There's
You
a little bit
see
of
nice
tension
little
there.
scouts around to
Yeah.
see like also potentially looking out for sandstorms
Yeah,
coming in. Of
sandstorms,
course,
yes.
Yeah.
they're
I like how he's just
kind
going
of
in circles.
stating in this particular worm signs. Enemies coming in as well.
Enemies coming in.
potentially.
Yeah,
Yes,
So yeah, it's this is kind of the experience of like harvesting spice in the deep desert from a large spice blow. And there are smaller spice blows like that you can come to
Yeah.
with a smaller guild.
We also have them in Hogga Basin, of course.
Yes.
just way
There's
smaller
there's
than
just a
this one.
couple
But
ones. in Haga
even
that's
with
really
the big
limited
harvester,
because we want
he's
the spice
not
to be
gonna
a
get
rare
all of that
resource that we need
spice.
to go out here into the deep desert to get.
And talking about like concentration of people, like the spice blow you can see from really far away,
Yeah.
Yes.
like
Yeah.
20 plus kilometers
Yes.
away. So you do need to bring some friends to be looking out for other people coming in.
Yep.
I'm surprised that bike has lasted this long, to be
So,
honest.
we've seen some comments from people like, well,
that's the same type of worm that you see in Haga Basin. The grandfather worm, the big worms are out in the deep desert as well.
We have the exchange. We just showed that before, right? So
you get both types out here.
Making something that a person on the exchange would want, right? That goes into the deep desert to get spice.
And he's gone in to pick up the harvester.
They can go to Arakeen or Hargo Village, post that, and then you can trade it on the exchange. Or you can meet up in person and trade with the
Picking up the
PvP.
crawler.
You gotta find him first.
There might have been some we can't hear it though, but there might have been some rumblings and some indication that.
Yeah. We
I think you get both out here. Hello. Well, thank you.
Yeah, we do have a known bug in the game where the spice color disappears.
How are you today?
It's still there. Yeah.
But yeah, so
you get both out there just to keep things spicy.
That's why
literally.
Yeah.
Ask and you shall receive.
Great seeing the little sandworm.
Yeah, the little tiny one on the side. You can see the scale.
Little baby like getting into the action there.
This is the ring mouth worm.
That's the ring mouth, yeah.
And that's gonna swallow everything that's in the middle. They're like just everything there is lost.
It
and
takes the
like
lot. But these guys managed to succeed and take their haul out of the deep desert today with them.
Very well prepared.
Yeah, they were well prepared.
Very well prepared. So as our crew here is now going back to. Actually, maybe we can explore a little bit because we do actually have Imperial testing stations here as well. And
well, hey there, Kason.
Somewhat close to one.
I wasn't sure if you'd make it.
So we can maybe show that from above as well. Again, to just.
I don't have any interest in custom stuff from people I don't know right now, but you're welcome to hang out and watch the stream.
PvP, right? So we really want to.
Correct. And this is our high-end PvE encounters happen in the deep desert. So the eco labs or ecological testing.
Sleep is good.
They're actually tuned for 4 players. Yeah. So it's
yay moderation.
Yeah, the main PvE challenge would be out here, where you're going to get those unique schematics that we were talking about earlier. But you need to scout, you need to find them, and then
zooming back.
Perhaps fight over them.
And work as a team. I think these are tuned towards minimum 4 people.
Thank you for the subs.
We actually showed one in our combat stream.
Yeah, the second part.
Yes, exactly. They're like kind of wave.
That scanner out there is really, really helpful because it helps you spot people as much as it does the ores that you want out there.
Quality station. And like as the game continues,
they're really frustrating, and then they show up in your Discord, and then you get all of the stuff, the DMs and things, and it's just like
that people would expect to explore. So things will
look,
be
it's a lab.
And as I mentioned, like the layouts for the
it's frustrating.
They're handcrafted. We have a cool system where we like build the layouts by hand and generate the spaces.
Just a little bit frustrating.
So it's kind of like we fill in the gaps with the sand. But like we are building new layouts for this all the time, right? And then over time we'll incorporate more and more elements. So there'll be always something to do. That's the pillar of the game.
I mean, on one hand I admire the hustle, but on the other hand it's invasive and it doesn't feel
something
nice.
Else I'd like to say that I think is like important is we will add, like we have the DLCs and things coming for the game. We'll be adding things in the DLCs. But the deep desert will always.
You're a sitting duck in that vehicle, by the way. Can you see how slow he's going? Everyone else is
adding to the deep desert. So
outpaced him by a ways.
Tier 5 items in the game, and we go to tier 7. Then the deep desert will start to have tier
and check out the temperature. It was running like 50.
We'll always try to keep
in
in terms of power, because the deep desert really is that continually
Udom, but now he's trying to get out of here, and he's cranked up to 120. So heat does damage your vehicles. It can impact your.
When we do that, we'll also increase the deep desert and make sure that there's
the longevity of your equipment.
The long-term goal is to continue updating the game and continue adding this stuff.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. To also ensure players about that. So while we actually have our team, or actually the spice harvesters, go back to.
I'm going to guess no, because they had it all set up out here.
Harvest the spice. Yeah.
Give them the spice, basically.
Yeah,
give them the spice.
It'd be really cool, though.
We do have an additional asset. We have actually a video from a stress test that we did with the beta last week on Friday, where we see.
But the fact that they assembled everything out there.
Yes, thank you, beta players. Fantastic.
Kind of implies that you can't.
As well. So
not direct.
That's actually a glimpse at the stress test that we did. It's also deep desert. lots of people together in the deep desert, a lot of ornithopters.
Hey, that all looks very familiar.
Like that.
They're ornithopters.
Yeah, they were spawning thopters like crazy.
That was you.
Someone's throwing bombs. Players never behave when you put them in the same space.
If I remember, that's actually Camille with the flamethrower. Not Camille, sorry, Ignacy. I mean, that was Ignacy.
The context of the stress test, by the way, was like we were testing people crossing the servers with our mesh servers and fighting on them.
Ornithopter back there. Sorry, it's like sorry, go ahead.
And fighting along the server boundaries just to see how the performance was. So you'll see people firing rockets, and yeah, it was a cool test.
We will never see anything like that again.
And seeing how people were fighting.
We'll never see anything like that again.
Shout out to our automation team because every build, right? We have the deep desert, and they have basically they deploy our automation system called Legion, and it goes.
See all the wrecks down there,
things, right? So it's got hundreds of ornithopters going back and forth between all the zone boundaries.
It was
there's a lot of testing that goes into a project like this. It's
the sunset,
and the more sandboxy you get, the more things can break, and that's kind of what makes it
the more
interesting.
freedom we also give to players, the more things can break, and like.
The game is absolutely beautiful, though.
Earlier as well, that like story-driven games that are linear and you follow one story are one thing. We do have that aspect in the game as well, but I think what we at Funcom really love to do is we love to create worlds where players can write.
And Harkonnen's out there flexing their wealth with the transport.
Such a different approach to.
Yeah,
every trying to wedge in.
One of the ways we describe Arrakis is a crisis generator, right? So it is spawning stories, and that's why. Like these tense locations, like the deep desert, are really important because it does spawn these memorable moments that you remember, that you go experience with your friends or your guild. You make friends, you make enemies.
That was
really important to like fully experience the politics and intrigue of Dune.
100%.
The power of multiplayer, right?
When we talk about,
I remember, like, we had a lot of
the end of the beginning.
Go back to actually delivering the spice. We had
this is something we got to participate in, and there's a whole lot of beta testers.
About the beta weekend or from the beta weekend, and I remember one moment.
Yeah, it's been an experience.
The CTA moment. Where one of the
streamers,
he was harvesting something or something.
Yeah.
Oh no, he was downed.
He was downed by an enemy.
He was downed but not out. And then the other one
yeah.
comes in and just drives over the enemy that was like targeting him, and he couldn't stop laughing. It's like these little moments that make, that create those stories that are so fun to share as well and are unique to you.
And some of the shots you can see me running back and forth on the big boxes.
Where for me, that satisfaction of really
it was like a hornet's nest. It was just
I think it's one of the things like
everywhere.
We get a bit of I mean it's fine. Like we get feedback like jank, right? Like being able to stand on top of an ornithopter is janky. It is, but when they asked me if we should remove that, I said no. Surfing on an ornithopter is actually
very cool.
Why isn't that cool? Like why isn't that something we want? So like sometimes we make those choices as well. Like it's like this might look.
I'm of the opinion if you can stand on one of those and actually hit somebody, take the win.
The meta on
take it.
beta might have been, surfing on ornithopters, shooting people with assault rifles.
A little bit of that might be fixed now. We fixed some of the assault rifle issues.
All right, so let's go back into delivering the spice now. Oh, actually no. Let's talk a little more. I actually wanted to ask you both a question. You actually have answered that recently in an interview.
When people say, well, the closed beta can't have stress tested enough.
Anyway, it's like, what is each
I
of
think
you's favorite thing in
that
the
was
game?
that was a flamethrower.
Things that we saw, like the transport ornithopter and
stuff. We're in a PvE area, so it doesn't count.
That you're particularly proud
There's no player damage.
So, survival games for me.
But yeah,
one of the best things they do.
We've put some pressure on the server. We put some pressure on the game.
So I think the team has done a great job of
the reach is scary.
Not only does the cutaway
I will admit that the reach is scary.
But you come across these wrecked ornithopters, and every time I come across one and I'm cutting off the wings and getting the resources from it, it just feels great, right? Because it makes the game grounded. So I would say that whole entire system.
I wouldn't stand in front of one.
Really unique with what we're
just saying.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's I think I'm thinking about the one that I mentioned in the interview as well, probably. But like the Dew Reaper, and the way that you because I like. Look, I made Conan. We made Conan, And Conan's a bit more stock standard in the survival sense, right? You're chopping down trees and you're harvesting rocks. And when it came to Dune, we had the design principle of like, make your designs fit Dune, do not make Dune fit your designs. And it was like, what does harvesting water look like?
There's been a lot of assumptions
where Duke Leto is looking out a window and the sun's rising.
Yeah,
and there's all
about
these people out in the fields harvesting dew off the flowers. And you're like, that's how
and no matter how much we've said that there's been hardcore testing on, there's been a lot of. It's not just us running around playing. There's been a lot of directed, hey, go do this and push that.
And drains the water up into, and like, not only did the animation team and the effects team nail that, and the audio team got all of that works, but it's also like the back end. The time of day.
It's been a thing. I'm a little sad that it's ending, but I'm also super excited that we're about to have thousands of people.
The sun comes up, and you're filling this leader john full of water because you understood the game system and you understood the timing.
We put some pressure on, and we found unexpected things that got fixed. But that's always a good thing. The game has evolved a lot. There's been things changed and moved and removed and added, and
all those things come together. Like as a developer, that's just the most rewarding stuff, right? And it feels good. And it doesn't.
It's been a whole process
because I love it so much. No, because I think it really nails it, right? Like I can't speak more highly of how
it's not testing server stability. It's
who worked on it, and everybody did their part.
No,
because
I get that.
I mean, there's going to be a ton of people hit the door on the 5th.
So we actually
but it also kind of, helps disperse the load.
So we're going to deliver spice.
Yes.
Try to win the Lensrad.
Yeah, and griefers are going to grief. There's always going to be somebody who tries to push the buttons. There's always going to be somebody trying to push the line of good behavior. I mean, PvP happens, but you don't have to be a dirtbag to PvP.
So now we're delivering for House of Lexan, we're delivering spice. And House of Lexan are a part of the manufacturing unit, which is where they... And so we're delivering 500 spice melange, and then they're going to make sure that it reaches them. And then that will, in a moment, change the Lensrad. So you can see how...
Or Lensrad turn in.
So Lensrad is there under the social tab. This board refreshes every so often. So it's been a few seconds since the last refresh.
The Lensrad is pretty dynamic, and it can change very, very quickly.
Borders refresh with a certain amount of spice. Oh, we didn't go to Alexan. You're on the
So we got a square that's pivotal because it could get 5 in a row and win.
Some spice, and the goal amount has gone up. So that you can see that we've increased our goal amount with House of Lexan there.
So we've worked towards.
Yes. So we haven't worked like once we hit 70,000.
UA's Reaper gloves, huh?
And we can do any of these activities to earn points, like the control point. We can
claim those.
We can deliver spice melange. But once we've
it is a little weird, and I think part of where people have gotten confused is exactly what the Lensrad is. Which is a political system. What we're doing is so we have Harkonnens and Atreides and all the minor houses, and everyone's jockeying for power. So we want a bit of that power. We're essentially lobbyists. We're paying off the minor houses to vote our way, so we get the benefits from it, and to bribe or encourage the minor houses votes. We go out and we do all these errands for them because we want things like the Chom vendor to give us a discount, or we want full loot PvP, or we don't want full loot PvP. So those are reasons for us to be pushing, looking at the vote and engaging with the Lensrad. Denial of a vote is political power.
Developed out of the need to replace thinking machines, the Mentats, trained on the principles of philosopher Gilbertus Albans, became one
slaves.
of the most important people in the Imperium. Able to calculate immense amounts of data and devise complex strategies, they are the most advanced tacticians on the battlefield. Combined with advanced assassination and combat technology, you will be able to think
the Mentat
ahead of your enemies. With a significantly higher cognition, as a Mentat, You can calculate trajectories and weapon handling to find weak points in an opponent's defense, or even guide the
I love it when
calculations
nerds
of an
catch the
external
bits of
sentinel
things that they've
assist
dropped
you
for
with
us.
extra firepower. Focusing on strategic control over raw strength. A Mentat is an expert in assassination technology, using poison capsules to trap enemies in a cloud of death. Or when out of sight, send in a hunter-seeker before the enemy...
Oh, the turret. That must have always been great. It never crashed servers.
For a tactical
Always been awesome. It's always been an amazingly helpful tool, consistently for the last year and a half.
The shield wall for extra protection. And to fool simple-minded enemies,
Mentat's go-to tool.
will confuse and scatter their focus. Throughout the dunes of Arrakis, any school can be
Blam.
trained and improved by masters, increasing your mental capacity and further advancing your tactical technology. Will
Swordmaster?
let you hold the strategic advantage in any situation. But to reach the highest tactical operation, adopting other schools of thought will increase your mental complexity, opening up further possibilities. Focus your mind and calculate each step forward to find the optimal probability for your
Yep.
survival on Arrakis.
Spit Dart, one of my favorites. It was not well timed. It was not well timed. He only got one of them.
Back for our Q&A. So our wizards behind the screen.
Joel's denying us his shoes. You notice he's the one sitting with his feet on the floor the entire time this time. He got a haircut and he's not showing off his shoes.
Make a reveal of my own. My special toe shoes today for everybody's.
They look really cool though.
They are cool.
But
No.
it also looks a bit like Hobbit feet, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like at least close up, Chad. So it's good you have a little bit of a. It's good you have
Not
close
for all
up.
the money.
There they are.
From what I understand, they're very healthy though. They're very better for you than actual normal shoes. So.
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
I started wearing them 10 years ago and I'm still fat.
He's just like, here's some toes.
Maybe
Super
they're
healthy.
not working out.
Well, your feet are very healthy.
My
Let's go
feet
there.
are massively
Yeah,
healthy.
super
Sorry,
healthy.
all right. Enough distraction. I apologize.
It looks a lot more comfortable now,
The
though.
reveal was
You don't
important
have
to me.
to. We wouldn't want you any other way, Joe. All right. Rui's probably going to kill me now.
Yeah.
All right.
I want him every other way.
Every other way. No. It's all good. Like it's also you guys make a really nice. You complement each other really well.
I've got pants. He doesn't have pants.
Exactly.
Oh, Lordy.
He has toe
God, I
shoes
hope he
and you
doesn't have
actually
my strings
wear
in
socks as
his
well, so
ear.
it's just like it's a whole balance thing. It's great.
Yeah.
All
Nice.
right. Alright,
He killed a
while we
Harkonnen.
still wait on the questions.
That's a very Harkonnen thing to do, though. Kill the Harkonnen and then wear his feet.
Maybe no one has
We've
questions.
answered every possible question
I
people
wish,
could have is
right,
fully
I
answered.
wish. Like that's kind of the both the blessings and the
Toe shoes,
blessing
still
and the
suit,
challenge
boots.
of Dune Awakening. I think it's just it has so many aspects of different games, that we really tried to put together and
Were you
have
the-
people try and understand.
Were you
so.
there when I was presenting to
Toll.
the press about the game? And I was calling Funcom morons for taking
Yes, of course I was.
Oh.
I was
was
expecting
fun.
headlines.
I-
we
we
didn't
take
get
a
a
lot
single
of risks.
headlines.
Yes.
We didn't get a single headlines like that.
Yeah.
Funcoms are morons.
Well,
Chief Creative Director says.
well, we are like we keep trying to, like it's one of the things that I love about working here. Is like they let me do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
They let me try and do weird shit. Like
mean-
it's like you could work somewhere where you're doing the same game every year. Speaking of reskins, like and you're making the exact same thing and you're within this box and it's like and like I do like that we're allowed to push beyond those things,
I
right? And
agree.
try harder to do something different. And yeah, it comes
Like
with
a
little
train
bit of
wreck, you
jank.
can't look
Yeah.
away.
I don't know. I
I
feel like
think
it's like the
I agree though. I think one thing you can't say about us is that we like it easy.
no, exactly.
like-
We're morons. We make it hard for ourselves every time.
It's what we were talking about in the
Can't
beginning,
even.
right? We make unique things, right?
Lordy.
We take risks, and sometimes it means that we make divisive decisions. But I think that's what was great about the beta, right? It's like people got to see what the
They are.
experience was. Oh, and here it is.
Exactly. So we're ready actually for the questions. So is that Lopil 125? Is the exchange global or per server?
And then suddenly he loses the smile. He looks uncomfortable now.
Call a container of all the Hogabasins.
He has to put them back.
That you will play and interact with, right?
So
There are hundreds of
the exchange
worlds,
is
so it is not
per
limited.
world.
Yeah, it is one deep desert per world, 2 social hubs per world, and then many Haga basins per world, and that is what we call a world. And yeah, as Scott says, at launch there are hundreds of worlds to choose from, right? And within each world, there's many Haga basins to choose from.
That's a lot of worlds. So I think they know from pre-orders how many numbers to expect.
Overland map dungeons instanced per player? Can you do them as a group, or
They are not
like
instanced.
social hubs?
The answer is that they are not instanced for a group. They are per
They're
player,
wide open.
and they're not open like the social hubs.
They are instanced, though.
Yes, they are
to a
instanced.
limit.
To a limit.
So several people in the same world can.
So you can run into people running through
Yes,
there.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it can happen,
Which
it does happen quite a
kind of
bit.
is kind of our only instant content in that way,
Yes.
in
Yes.
that sense.
Yep, correct.
Charlie Foxtrot TV asks.
Oh
how
lordy,
do
that's a
content-
big question.
Oh, they.
I like how they're both.
basically isolate resources so that they can only be used if they're on that circuit, and then you can set a circuit for the. It's a little bit hard in the UI, but you can set like a machine's input.
Yeah, it's kind of nice that you can run in
Like draw from the
and
storage,
out,
deliver to this storage when you're finished, right? Like,
and just hang out and help people if they get stuck.
yeah, exactly.
Quite
You can
nice.
set a certain number of storages per circuit. and
Or
set-
you know,
Yes, that's basically it.
it,
Drachen asks,
hang out and help
how
people,
will
or
they ensure
if someone
balance
might
between
stumble in
hobby
and help you.
activities?
There are systems. I think I talked about this in that other.
You
when I got
you
that
just
question.
Hopefully they get that
mentioned
sorted.
you have, but
We
you
have
didn't
some
want to
systems
Are they
say
are they
it.
gonna
Yeah,
find some
Exactly.
work for you
and then-
tonight?
And then when we introduce a third faction, which we are planning to, it will also have a role in that balance. But that's basically what I can say right now. But ensure is very
tells
hard.
us.
Like it's very hard to like be 100% certain because
I don't
in
judge.
the player's choice.
I would be the last
choose.
person to keep
And so
shame.
you can't guarantee that it's going to be 100%, not 100% people on a Atreides on a world. But I think we have pretty good systems in place to make sure that at least
I
feels
showed
like it
many
balances
players
itself
where
out
all the
pretty
water
well.
is
And the
in
deep
the
desert
first
is
testing
not
station. There's
Atreides
quite a bit of water, and there's
Yes.
some hidden boxes
Every-
with loot in
Yes.
there.
person for themselves. Right? So even
as
if
well.
Harkonnen
Plus
are
the
kind of dominating
bookshelf.
a server, or they're 60-40, they're going to be fighting themselves in the
Yes.
deep desert as well.
And that's actually something I forgot to mention when we were talking about the land.
It's the man from Down
the
Under
Landsraad, you
energy
can
that
see
Joel has.
the different within
top
the
guilds.
faction
Where he's just
who
chill.
the top guilds are and who contributed the most. Because a part of the Dune thing is that like it isn't that like everybody in Atreides is a monolith. It's actually like people want the Duke's attention, so they want to be further up. And the same with the Harkonnen, right? Like I want the Baron to witness me, so I'm trying to get to the top of the list of guilds. So there should be inter-guild competition even within the factions. So they overall are working towards the common goal of the Landsraad.
Yeah.
But they're trying to beat each other.
Because
to be
it's
the
not
best in the
just
Landsraad, so they have the most
red
voting power,
versus
they get the
green, it's
rewards,
also
et cetera.
individual
Yeah,
groups.
especially also because like one Atreides guild might be focused on PvP, the other one might be super opposed to PvP.
Yep.
So they definitely don't want the PvP guild to like get, we want full PvP. So
Yes.
they will.
There's just the
work
thing,
against
there's
them, like,
always
we
that
wanna
one
be top
person
because
that
we
will
wanna
be
have more say in which degree we actually going to have.
like
in
the
shorts,
crafting guild's gonna want the
regardless of the
crafting guild.
weather.
Exactly.
And
yes.
they're not going to want the PvP full loot decree, right?
Exactly,
So there's going to
yes.
be
I
that
can
kind
see
of
him running around in
competition,
Oslo
even within the
in
factions.
shorts, regardless of the weather.
Yep, good question.
Cypher asks, can our bases get raided?
So
Bases get
not in
raided.
Hoggabasin.
Oh!
They will be safe in Hoggabasin. In the deep deserts, it's a bit different.
Yeah, in the PvE section of the Deep Desert, no.
Yeah.
But in the PvP section of the Deep Desert, there is a mechanism by which bases have a vulnerability window where they can be raided. It is a very short vulnerability window, and again, I would point to the lore of the Dune universe. So I'm sorry if
I don't even
everybody
say
who hasn't read the
discussion.
books and doesn't know a way in which shields.
You
can
would
go
think
down
they'd
for
be
a brief
tired.
period of
It
time,
got very
but it is
heated
worth
the other
looking
day
into
in
because then
the
you'll understand exactly how
open
the mechanics can work.
Discord,
And I know I'm being
where a couple people were having
needlessly
a
cryptic, but I'm
hard
sure there's
go
people
at
spamming in the chat about
Iggy, and he ended up pinning some comments because he's like, I'm not answering. He got very heated, which I totally respect, because the guy was I called one of them an asshat. I'm surprised I didn't get muted.
Progressing, sorry.
No, that's
the
fine.
main story and the ability to craft.
No.
Yeah, no. The story.
I know you told me not to go in there. My son keeps telling me to stop arguing with people on the internet.
About that.
It's like a compulsion.
In your role on Dune.
It's your quest to find the Fremen and wake the sleeper, right? So
It's a
so
compulsion.
the main story follows that.
I've got to stop doing
what we
it.
were talking about and what we were showing earlier with the different faction unlocks, like in terms of the visuals and those things, you're locked out of if you don't want to join a faction.
But those
you
are
can't get,
pure vanity.
but they're pure
Ignacy
vanity,
is
right?
very, very chill.
But yeah, you can't.
But I
one thing
think
that's, you cannot
I
join
think
the
the chasing the
unless
NDA
you
breaks,
have
plus
aligned
being
yourself
asked
with
the
the faction.
same question
Your
over and over and
guild
over
must be
in an
aligned with the faction
aggressive
to
way.
participate in the Lance Red. That is the one hard requirement.
It was
that I
the
think,
problem. It's not just
faction
answering the same
alignment
question
has
over and over. And I think
That's it.
Cole and I had
Otherwise,
the
yeah, you can do
same
all the
same
content without
thing,
joining
and
trades
maybe
or hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Savage as well.
I also think when it
It's
comes to progressing,
there's a limit on
depends
how
on
many
the
times we can
content
answer the
because
same
you will
question
still very
nicely, but
much
when people
in the
start coming in with
tutorialization part
attitude,
of the game, right?
that's when the
So,
problem
I
starts.
know that
And that's
some
when
players were like,
I
"Whoa,
revert
this is
to
very
use the
linear,"
search
and
function,
things.
you
But
dumb
the thing is,
fuck.
things
I don't
open
say
up
it that way,
way
but I'm
more
feeling
as
it.
you pass that
I'm
tutorialization
feeling
section
it.
as well. So you won't be actually locked progressing when it comes to crafting or where you spend your points.
Yeah, and in the
Intel
opening
points specifically.
in the opening of the game, after character creation, you actually get a choice as to whether you want to play with an unlocked tech tree or a locked tech tree. The reason we put that there is so that people who are advanced survival players or people who've played Dune before can just go, okay, I want the unlocked tech tree, I know what I'm doing. But I recommend,
There was some people
recommend the
deliberately
locked
being
tech tree is for people who are
provocative
playing the game
just
for
to
the first
try
time
and stir
really,
stuff.
like, because there are so many. We've been
I
talking
don't
about
think
it a lot today.
they're never going to
There are
lift
so
the
many
NDA. There will be
mechanics that are just
parts
kind
of the
of
game that
Dune
will
mechanics that
always
we
be
want people to
technically
learn,
under
and we
NDA.
need
I
to
don't know
teach
what
them. And
what
it's
extent
gonna
they
be
will
hard
chase
for you to
people.
know what to do. Like, you don't know about dew reaping and times of day when you should be out harvesting dew unless you follow.
Yeah, there's people who absolutely will not listen to the people who've been sitting there for the last year and talking with the devs.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Koopa is asking, is there a level
and
cap?
you know, paying attention to what the devs say. It's like,
Currently.
But you can
or the one guy who's like, well, Iggy's not a dev, he's just a mod, and it's like, that's not.
cycle.
Don't
So
even start with
even
that.
if you cap out and you play something and you
They are
And there's a point where you
distracting.
run out of,
They
like,
are
you stop
distracting.
getting, unlock points for your tech tree, intel points, and then we have a mechanic in the game for you to go around and
Yeah, it's
unlock
you can't.
more intel points.
It's
by
this
going to
constant
bases in the
battle
world, like enemy bases and outposts. So there's a level
to
cap that puts a
help
stop to
people
some of those progression
who
things,
don't
and
want to
then
be helped.
the next step from there
They're
is
just
to
wanting to
go
be
and explore
combative.
more and enjoy the game more.
Because we do want you to make some choices. Right?
I want to
Yes,
help people,
exactly. Also,
but
like, I
my
mean,
patience with
different
asshats is
level
at
and skill
an
point
end.
caps, right? Because you have a character level, you have skill points, and you have intel points.
I would
Those
think
are
right
two
now the
different
level cap,
caps that you
it may be like it was in Conan, where initially the level cap
Okay,
was in
69
early
is
access
asking,
was
is it possible to lose all your gear in
much lower than what it is
So
now.
not in
So over
not in
time, as they
PvP
add more
the base
content, we
level.
might
In the
get
deep
a
desert, you
raised
lose
level cap.
resources that you're carrying, Solari and Spice, and you take durability damage to some of your gear. Right, that's what happens every
Yeah.
time you die, PvE or PvP. But if there's a specific decree from the Landsrad which enables full loot PvP in the
And
deep desert
that
for
could
1
be,
week,
especially if
then that's
the
the
map
only time
increases size
in the
and
game
more
where you can
content
lose all your
comes,
gear
it
in
would make sense to have a slightly
Or
higher
if
level
you're
cap.
fighting in the sand,
But,
and comes in each.
If you
I
try
guess
to
you
fight
can
the
lose all your gear in
sandworm,
PvP, but
yeah.
we count the.
Yeah,
Is the sandworm PvP?
He did
really?
say in the
It's more like
QA we
PvP,
had with
yes.
him the other day
100%.
that in the 10-year plan,
Wolfie,
other planets
1974,
are
we
in
able
that
to
plan,
get
but
blueprints that
he,
devs
you know,
made
that's
of
a
their
ways down the
bases?
road.
Before Igo presents.
To
We're gonna be able to be
exactly,
blueprints.
to an
Devs
extent.
made of their
That's actually
bases.
very
That's a
cool. I
great
love
idea.
that idea. That's actually a very
Maybe
cool
we can
idea.
fill up some vendors
Yeah.
post-launch with some.
I wonder how many of them made
I
the
was,
cubes.
yes, I was just about to say I don't think players should actually pay for them per se, but we should, or maybe they need to. I don't know.
You don't want copies of my
I mean,
bases.
you should
You
note,
can get
actually,
trapped
let me rephrase that.
inside.
We shouldn't have a
The
dev
window
sell
is very,
those
very
items in
small
game,
for
but
the
we
base
can
shield
sell
to be
it.
down.
That's what I meant, right?
Maybe
As
we
people
can put a
discovered
vendor.
in
That'd
the
be
beta
cool, yeah.
weekend,
Yeah,
some
maybe
people got
vendors in the
trapped
world can
inside
sell some
bases because they
blueprints.
followed someone
see,
in
like,
through an
the
open door, and then
training
hey,
where
now
it's
you're
like-
stuck.
Today
You
was
can't
the
get out,
builder among us.
and you have to
Mine
respawn.
would just be no one
Mine
wants.
are boxes.
No one wants to see
Yeah.
my. I'm the guy who tests TTP
New dog houses.
TTP every time.
Yes.
So
I'm sure we're gonna have players who make fantastic buildings. Okay, Quintinovich is asking, will G4
I like
be in
durability
Dune
damage.
Awakening?
I like the idea that it's forcing you out into the world as it's a survival game. The environment is a huge component of the game, and making you go out and do stuff is kind of
I
the
don't have
point.
Slack open, otherwise you could check.
GeForce
Someone
Now
who's
is
like
the
hammering
streaming
messages
service, right?
to me
Yeah,
online.
so
It's like,
the question,
Yes.
I guess, would be
If you whether you deliberately respawn or die, it
I don't know the
counts.
answer. I'm sorry, but Scott.
Yeah, I don't think I have an official answer, but I believe so.
Once you hit skill tier, you can build
Helping
a
Hans,
repair
how do you balance
bench.
the council wins? If you want
But
to
I wouldn't
unique
spend
weapons,
any
will that
effort
side have a
repairing
better
low
chance to
tier
win the
stuff.
next vote down the line?
Not necessarily, because the tasks for the Landsrat are pulled from, like, so there's 25 tasks per week, and there's a pool of like 400 tasks that can potentially show up. So you, first of all, don't necessarily know what's going to be there. Unique weapons doesn't actually influence everything. Some of the tasks are kill tasks. You don't know
Repair
which
bench
tasks are going to
skills.
be revealed first. You also have to bribe
Exactly. There's
Landsrat
stuff
envoys
like in
with
the
spice to reveal
planetologist
tasks,
skill tree
and
that
if your faction
reduces
does it before the other faction,
costs for
you'll see,
things, and
okay, we need to do
I
this,
think it's
so you might
Mentat
just get ahead because
has
you had
some
more spice or whatever.
some stuff
It's not-
along those
it's
lines,
not
if
gonna
I
come
remember
down to unique
correctly.
weapons.
So it's
Absolutely
not
That's not going to be the thing that.
it's not
that
excessively
means that one
punitive,
side gets a
yeah.
sudden landslide kind of
To
advantage.
if you die,
Yeah,
it's
so
it's not.
I think that's the best way to answer that.
I've had to work very
I
hard to
think that's a
get
great
past
answer
my
too, and I
gear
think this
fear
goes again into people are a bit too afraid that everything is about
be
PvP
more
and
willing to
fighting,
take a little risk. It's not
endgame,
as
and that's
painful to
absolutely not
die
the case.
Yeah.
And hopefully
as
we explain
the
that
gear
a
fear
little
me
bit as well for people
says.
to feel a bit more like.
So yeah, definitely chasing those passives is definitely worth spending the points.
Dr. Evil Eye, is there any content or materials that are hidden behind
Hidden
PvP,
behind
meaning that the only
PvP.
way to obtain that item gear material is to risk losing to large guilds?
I wouldn't
Those
say
are
hidden, but
things.
yeah, like you can. The Deep Desert, which we just explained, is a place where tier 6 gear is, like items and materials for crafting those.
I
things.
wouldn't call it hidden
need
or
to go there
gated.
to
I
get
mean,
those things.
you don't
You
have
can
to
buy them off the
PvP if you go out
exchange.
there.
You
There's
can
a
trade for
risk
them
of
with other
PvP
people.
if you go out there.
Yes.
Or
have to go
you
to
could
that
buy the
place
stuff on
in
the
order to get
market.
those things, and there is a risk of people attacking you when you're in that place. We tried to explain that this is a very large place. It's not going to be possible for a guild to cover the entire space. It's
Yeah,
just
there's
not going to be
members.
possible.
Yeah, I think guild limits.
Yeah, I remember
Guild
seeing
limits
some
32
comments. There
people,
was someone
so
going, "Well, I'm going to come in
one
with my
per
300-man guild, and we're just going to
they
block
have access all
access."
the
I'm
way
like,
across.
"You
And
are
even
welcome
then,
to
I think
try."
there's all kinds of
Yeah.
tactics
You're not
and
gonna
ways
do
to
it,
draw them off.
but you're welcome to
I don't
try.
think it's going to be
There,
a problem.
there are potentially hundreds and hundreds of people.
Like,
that
we're
can
just
be
gonna
on
we're just gonna
PvP.
camp it,
So
and I'm like,
one
"Are you
guild
though?
would be outnumbered by 100 people.
Are you though?"
Again, if you want to rat, you can rat.
Yeah,
Like there's options, right?
And also, like the tier 6 gear isn't required for the story or
Yeah.
for anything that's having to do with
Yeah.
like advanced
Between
events. It's
the
sort of
risk
just
of friendly
treated
fire
as a
damage,
But we can't tell people
inability to know
that they
who's
can't get to
who,
the top number go up because
the,
people always want that. So,
Yeah.
water needs,
There are other
fuel
ways to get
needs.
even though it's not
If you're
required,
just hanging out out there,
I know people are going to want
it's
it.
I feel like it makes sense though because
it's
those
expensive.
people who really care about the highest level tier are probably the PvPers, and they want to be in the deep desert in the first place. So I feel like it's kind of a natural
Yeah.
balance there
Yeah.
too.
Hopefully
And
they also have like
we said before, the guy that was riding
around
around on his bike out there around that one, the spice blows, like that's
Discord, right? And I
that's
see that
that's
like
a baller
there's
move.
people
I
who
would
kind
never
of
have
assume
considered
that
doing
everybody
that.
who
It
is a
never
guild
would
in
have
PvP
crossed
is
my
gonna be
mind
this
to ride
toxic.
around on some sand with thumpers that
I
way.
think it's going to be the opposite. I think we're going to have the good guy guilds who are out there actually protecting people and like helping people out. I've seen it in the beta already. People, oh, I got lost in the desert, help, and people would come help them, give them rides home, like give them more gear. I've seen people in the beta like just give other people an ornithopter when they lost one because of a bug that was in the game.
Yes.
From our end. They're like, oh, do you want an
That's
ornithopter?
another thing
Have
that's
a
pissed me
spare
off
one,
too.
right?
Is people the assumption,
great
well, the
to see.
beta
I think
testers are
people
going to
worry-
exploit
people
everything
worry
and,
too
and
much
stomp
about
us into the ground. It's
toxicity.
like, no, we don't.
Hopefully, we'll keep track of it, of course, but it should be fine.
And you have
We don't
one-
play that way. There's people there. It
Yeah,
is
so,
competitive, but not everybody's out to
you are
stab you
good anyway, so
in
you
the
have
back.
some sort of reputation.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
lots
There's
of
that as
really
well.
helpful
Again,
people.
a callback to more old school MMOs that I grew up with. Like, anyway.
There's
So
lots
two
of
more
really
questions.
helpful people who have been playing the
14 is
game, who will
asking,
continue to
is
play
there
the
a chart for
game,
each person in your guild?
who have
Yes.
worked really hard,
You need-
both
you
in
need to create a sync
the
chart for every
game
person
and,
who's
and
going
we've
to
talked
want
about
to
this
reveal those
before in
things
the,
and
the
put in a sync
They're
chart.
single
Discord about
They're
building a
single chart
community.
consumables once you've created them.
And last questions. Neo Valkyrion can transport ornithopters carrying
And
other
I think
ornithopters.
Yes, they can.
They can indeed.
I think you know we
I was playing it earlier. I was
people who
flying
played the
around
beta
carrying a medium
weekend,
helicopter with
They
my
can pick
transport.
up pretty much
you know, people
Yeah.
get eaten by worms. You know,
And
here's
anything
here's some
vehicular.
stuff.
Yes, vehicular. Can't pick up people.
And
Unless they're
They're
it's
sitting inside a vehicle.
I think most people,
All
even
right,
in
so that was it with
PvP,
the
aren't
questions
going to
for
be,
today,
you
and
know, crazy and
also
wild and horrible with it.
for our last
I think in the
Yeah.
basin,
developer
especially
stream
working on
before
building a nice
Head
community,
Start
having good
and
neighbors,
official
be a
release,
good neighbor.
I'm like still like how okay, so
like 7
how
days,
do
8 days?
how do you boys feel? Thanks.
Me
How do you
first.
feel?
Go, Scott.
Pretty good, right?
Pretty
So beta went really well.
Yeah,
from
I
our
mean,
perspective.
it's like anything that
Tech was
there's an
stable, and that's
obnoxious,
what we're always worried about.
loud, tiny
we knew the game was
minority
pretty good.
that wants to think that they're bigger than they are,
so,
Right,
and wants to think that their
all the
impact is
tests
bigger
we
than
had
it
run
is,
showed that, but
and that's not
we
true.
were
So
a
I think
little
the
fearful,
most people
you know,
just
that
keep running
tech was
around doing
rolling,
what
and
they
it
want to
went
do
really, really
quietly
well
and just
with,
hitting rocks and PvEing or
closed-ish beta,
you
right?
know
The-
going out and getting spice and
the
coming
server
back
crash
without
rate
much
was low, the
you know
client crash rate was
fanfare,
within our acceptable
I think are the majority.
tolerance, and we're fixing most of the issues that we found. So cautiously optimistic, right? Incredibly excited to show the entire game, and so yeah.
Yeah.
See reactions.
But
I'm,
the last week is always
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Clinch.
it's 5 years of your life, right? And
Yeah,
it's like, I think that's the thing that I think is like.
I think
what-
there was some who have argued
I'm not
with me
sure
about
people
how
understand.
PvP
It's like when you've
dominates
been living and
Conan, and I'm
breathing
like, not
this
really.
kind
The
of thing for 5
numbers,
years.
whether
And
officials
then,
or
like,
private,
you see
are that
the
PvP
gaming
is a
industry
minority.
is volatile.
You just guys
Things
think that if you're
don't go
loud,
well
that
for
you're
people.
there's
We have
more
a
of
team
you, and that's not
you
true.
know, that I love to work with. We have a team of great people that we've built over the last years, and it's like it isn't about like success in the sense of like, you know, oh, I just want to say that like, it is a game that I think is great, right? And I've played it and I kind of know that it has a lot going on, right? And I think it works well. And from the beta, we got some confirmation of that. But I want my team to be together
Yeah.
making games for a long time, right? So for me, this is like, I'm nervous about that, right? Like the gaming industry is not a safe place anymore, right? It's not easy to guess what's going to be successful. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm watching things and like, you know, you see things that are fantastic from small teams going great. Like
It's
you know,
yeah,
there's
it's
some
been in
fantastic games
development
this year,
since
games
the
that you
first
wouldn't have
movie.
predicted coming out of nowhere, like
They didn't
Schedule-
realize that the movie
Schedule
was
One
going
is
to take
great,
off the
but
way it
also, like,
did,
Claire
much less the
Obscura, I'd
second
heard
movie
of, but I
taking
hadn't
off
heard
the
of
way
it
it did.
until
So you know,
really
no
blew up.
pressure.
And so you see the gaming
You
industry
know,
being successful. So I think it's
there's a
like,
lot of pressure
you don't want to
for
have
the
arrogance to think
crew
that you should be among them,
to
but you hope.
live up
That's
to
kind of where
that.
I'm at least. I'm hoping we strike a vibe. I'm hoping that all the decisions that we made, and there's 10,000 decisions on a gaming project, right? There's 10,000 decisions, and every one of them is about moving towards a goal, right? Towards a vision, a creative vision, a vision of a universe, a vision that a guy created in 1963 when he wrote a book, right? And that's, I don't know, like I'm extremely nervous, but that's what we're trying to get to, right? And that's, I hope what people feel when they play the game is, yeah, okay, you nailed it, right? Like that's what we want.
And I feel like we've made an amazing.
Yeah,
improvement,
it's.
right? And it's the first.
I think
where you're
Joel was
walking,
probably
right, on
wanting
that.
to do Dune for a long time, just being a Dune nerd and just
We're
trying to
skipping
figure out a way to make it
2001's
happen.
Frank Herbert's Dune, but
But for me, right, in a modern sense anyway. So it's and we have a story.
And then
we wanna
now
tell.
this
People saw a really
project
short
of this
glimpse of it in
scale,
the beta, but there's so much more.
you know,
going
hit a million
through the
wish lists in like
background.
October of
Yes.
last year. I mean,
And
it's big.
there's this long story that we want to tell over the, like you said, 10 years, right? On
Yes.
the thing.
That's the
So
plan.
I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah, yeah.
that. So
10-year
we
plan.
have a long story. We want to continue releasing updates, every 3-4 months with additions to that story, in addition to the DLCs that we're going to come out. So when you buy the game, you're getting everything here right now, plus all the story content that
Yeah.
we'll continue to release over the next years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think
We're excited.
concepts
It's a
were
lot of pressure.
probably,
We'll do
you know,
fine.
Joel's
There's no
team
guarantee
started
we'll love them all,
stuff,
but you
and
know
then
what?
whenever
I'll
they got
say
picked
this
up,
for the record,
then they had access to Legendary in their teams and started kind of really
no matter
leaning
what
into,
happens,
you know, things like
all of them can
Lumen
hold their heads up
that they
high
used in the
because they've
movies and
worked
art
really hard
and
to bring this to
the
fruition.
set
Absolutely,
structures. Because
shout
they
out
said in
to
one of the
our teams, the
early
many teams that
streams
work on
that they
this game, all
did,
different
the
departments.
directs,
And absolutely,
how
it's a
they
beast of a
sent
game,
people
I think we can
to
say that.
the studio and they
And,
got,
I'm
you know, to
actually
talk to
getting
the art
goosebumps, I'm
people and they
sorry.
got to walk around on the sets and, you know,
I'm sorry.
be around the thopters and things.
Such a,
So
anyway,
there's
but
been
I think that's a
a
wonderful
connection, and
note
that's
to
why I
end
tell people when they
this,
talk about
again,
I'm going
last
to break the
developer
NDA,
stream.
and it's like Funcom's not people you need to be afraid of. It's Legendary.
Before Head Start and release. One thing we can actually say is that you will be able to upgrade your editions on the 10th of January. So there will be an option.
10th of June, I
10th
think.
of, sorry, June. Oh my God. I just, that wonderful ending. I just completely read that.
That's fine.
Oh well.
Congratulations.
Anyway, pro here, right? Yes, so 10th of June, when
I'm seeing that.
goes into full release, you will be able to upgrade your editions. Should you want to do that, there will be options on Steam. And we'll be ending. Thank you so much again, Scott and Joel, for being here during out of your busy schedules. So we really appreciate it talking to us.
It's going to be
we'll
wild
have the
next
last
week.
trailer. And with that, I thank everyone for watching and joining us today. And hopefully you'll enjoy what's coming your way.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, see you on Thursday.
Cheers.
I understand why they're not offering mods.
So then,
Yeah, I think if someone does something that, you know, on their PC so they can see headgear or not, I don't think that they're going to come after them for that. But they also don't want, 40-foot dildos running around, flying through the sky with as worms. So
find the Fremen. Wake the sleeper.
You were sighted fleeing the scene of a terrible crash. Who are you?
You've heard the expression, the spice must flow. I am
Oh,
the man who
yes.
ensures that it continues to do so.
I dreamed of you. Burst in fire.
given the money that they've made off of Dune so far, it's $1 billion IP.
I am
And they are going to be very, very protective
of what happens.
of how it's perceived by the masses.
We've all lost our way.
Thomas the Train as Shackaloo.
Every person carries their past with them. Who are you?
Who are you? That's a very good question. Exactly. That scene is... Mandy Patinkin for Inigo Montoya. That was incredible. That was very cool. That was a lot of people. So yeah. Oh, wrong thing. I hate it when I do that. I'm trying to grab that. Give me the thing. Aha. No buttons. Iggy told everybody it would not be a big PvP thing. He was very upfront about it not being a big PvP thing. Hold on. Is the sound messed up? Is there sound? But, okay. Don't, let's not go down that road again. I'm trying to, the mic is literally, you can see it, it's like right there. So I'm trying not to, my screen is right there and I'm blind, so I have to lean. I need to figure out how to make the font bigger in Streamlabs. I can do it in Discord. I can make big font, but I need to make the font bigger in Streamlabs. I need it. Okay. Pretty much. I can't. Well, I'm like trying to read the comments. I can't even read that. I know. It. The eye doctor insists that it's not. My glasses are fine. I'm like, but I think it's a processing thing from the brain fog, where I have to really focus on seeing things as much as anything else. Yep. That's been there for a bit. That holster is not clean. Oh, sure thing. I'll see you guys around later. But no, tomorrow will be the podcast, and we'll be talking more about all of this at that time. We'll be doing kind of the plan is to be kind of doing an overview. There's lots of new people. We've had an influx of like 1,000 or 10,000 new people to the Discord, and there's lots of people who need some reiteration of the lore or the game structure or how the game is different, excuse me, from the books and that kind of thing. So who some of the things are, and try to screen front. Yeah, I need to try Fallout New Vegas. Someone was talking that I had tried playing Stray the other day, and I got stuck on a thing because on mouse and keyboard. The game was made for controller, and I got stuck on a thing, and I died like literally like 20 times before I was like, okay, I'm done. And I got a message from someone saying that they died in the same spot, so I'm like, I felt a little better. Did they put out a TLDR version of the history of the alternate universe? The universe is the same up until the point where Jessica obeys the mother, Reverend Mother. And so all of the politics and all of the background maneuvering and all of the history is the same. Then there's some diversion. Once the game goes live, there will be many podcast episodes over the lore as presented in the game and how it impacts players, how the history of some of the wrecks and what's going on in the labs and who's who, and how those things kind of play into the lore. So did all the books and comics, because that's the case. Okay. Everything that happened like in the core 6 books, okay, that is set aside. So from the time, if the prequels, like the House Atreides books, those would have happened up to the point where Jessica makes the choice. Bean doesn't like any of the non-core 6 books, but up until the point where Jessica makes that choice, everything happened. So if you've read the Atreides house book, then you know about all of that happened that with Leto. Anything that happened from the point where Jessica says, I'm going to have a daughter instead, all of that's changed. So most of the core books are not there. The players and their intents and motivations will still be there. So things like Duncan probably not trusting Jessica will be there. Duncan didn't trust her that much. Gurney really didn't like her. So things like that would still be there, especially as if she leaned into her Bene Gesserit background and became a truthsayer. Yeah, they set us up with an expectation of what Duncan was going to look like. And she did get points for catching Yue, the actual betrayer. Part of what hurt Gurney was because when everything went down, he assumed it was Jessica. And it took a lot. If you've read Waters of Canley, you know that it took a lot to dissuade him of that belief. So, yeah. No one has... Yeah. Anyway. Any other... Like I said, tomorrow we're going to be answering a lot more questions. Mostly tomorrow is going to be almost like an extended Q&A kind of thing. Well, to be fair, the Bene Gesserit are very secretive about what they do. I mean, and some of the maneuverings that they've done are very sus. It really, people go on about the good guy bad guy thing. It's like the Atreides have done some shit. They just haven't got caught. That's they just haven't gotten caught. And that's part of the problem that the Emperor had with them, is the Emperor has some big skeletons in the closet too. If those came to light, Leto would be a favorite of the Landsraad to step up. But more importantly, because Leto had been building such a military force to defend himself versus the Harkonnen, that put him at odds with the Sardaukar, who were supposed to be the ultimate fighting force. The Fremen aren't really good guys either. Shawnee taking the blood out of a kid that wasn't even dead yet, it's hard. But we saw that in the trials. Who is it that thinks? Those that suffer. Yeah, the Atreides are just better at hiding the bodies. They're just better at keeping the secrets. Building actual loyalty with people goes a long way to hiding things longer and better. Yeah, it's a thing. So I am going to wrap it up here. So tomorrow, 7 p.m. UK time, we'll be back with the podcast. It'll be like an extended QA, so bring all of your questions. NDA safe questions we will answer as we can. And thanks everybody for coming along and sitting with me and putting up with my weird audio issue that I'm leaning away from the mic. So that's... And we'll catch everybody next time. We'll bring all the nasty stuff. Of course she will. She will. The VOD will, of course, be up on Twitch, and then it will also be on YouTube as well. So we'll have that as well. So we'll catch everybody laters. Have a good one. And hasta mañana, right? And where is the thing? Okay, the button. Bye. Catch everybody later. Bye-bye.